Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Terrace Scottish Football Podcast. I am your host, Craig Fowler, and this is the 2026-2027 Scottish Premiership Preview Show. You've heard the best, now hear the rest. 11 hours, Telfer and Sean ran through all 30 clubs in the Scottish lower leagues, and we are here in person in Tony's flat in lovely Ballgreen to talk about the 12 clubs in the Scottish top flight in some detail, not as much detail. We're not going to do 40 minutes on Arbroath or a team in the Scottish Premiership like they did for Arbroath to kick off their podcast because, well, I'm joined by Craig Cairns. Craig, hello, how's it going?
Because I'm joined by Craig Cairns, you won't be bothered doing that.
Get to that if you didn't so rudely interrupt, Tony. Wait your turn.
I'm good. I'm not really one to complain about the heat, but my God, it's humid today.
Yes, and it's warm in here, certainly warm in here. But what I was saying, Tony, if you let me finish, is that Craig, we can't talk 40 minutes on one team because we are recording at 3 o'clock on Tuesday, 28th of July, and myself, and especially Craig, because he's working at the game, have to get to Tynecastle for Hearts. Second leg, very likely dead rubber game against Sturmgratz.
Well, we better rush there, come on.
And also, as you probably figured out already, I'm also joined by Tony Anderson.
Well, you didn't say I was in my house, so...
I'm just introducing you. How's it going?
Times people have been used this house without me being involved, in fairness.
That's it. Well, that's true. In fact, I used it to have a layover before going to Edinburgh Airport in the very small hours when I flew out to Albania, so thank you very much for that.
Hey, it was my pleasure. You looked after my cat, so that's all that matters to me. But I am happy to be here, Craig. I was a bit, obviously, been in the World Cup and I've been on holiday quite a lot recently. And I was like, bloody hell, that's the Premiership back already. And I was like, I can't be bothered with this. But then doing the prep for this and reading about other clubs and getting a handle on everyone, then you get that lovely little buzz again.
Yes.
And it's a good buzz because, my God, no one's ready. So let's do it. Not a club out there is ready for this. So that's good.
It's almost like it's July.
Every single season is always the same. Everybody moans at why we're not ready because it's the season's starting now, but we've got a month left in the transfer market, and this is just what always happens.
I don't know, I think there's more than usual not ready, but quite a distance in the mark. But if you can get off to a decent start and get your house in order by the end of August, with the amount of teams that aren't ready, some of them aren't going to be, and I think you can be in for a very good season if you catch it right here.
And we will begin, interestingly enough, with Aberdeen. Last season they finished in 9th place in the Scottish Premiership. It was a dreadful campaign for the Dons. They failed to build any momentum off the back of that Scottish Cup victory over Celtic. In fact, they didn't score in any of their first 6 league games. And while they recovered with a period of 7 wins in 10 matches, Jimmy Challeen ultimately lost his job after a dismal defeat away at Falkirk. Peter Leven, previously seen as a safe pair of hands, was drafted in to look over the running of things while they indulged in a very lengthy search for a new manager, which ultimately turned up somebody who must have been in Alan Burrow's contacts, which was Stephen Robinson. Not a popular choice, but he did steady things before the end of the campaign. And so far this summer, he has been very aggressive in building this Aberdeen team in his own image. He said he wanted players with Premiership experience, and boy has he done that. Arriving has been Lewis Smith, Brad Lyons, Lewis Mayo, Toyoshi Osanyo, who was there last season, joined on a permanent deal, Connor Ronan and Tony Yogan. Meanwhile, they've cleared out some of their underperformers like Toby Keskiren, Alexander Jensen, Nicholas Milanovic.
Anybody that Thielen signed, basically.
Yeah, Marko Lazatic. All they were sold for decent amounts of money. I think they recouped nearly $2 million in total, while Graham Shinney, former club captain, has moved on to Inverness. So, boys, do we believe in Robinson's plan to turn Aberdeen into a top 3 contender again?
I think the interesting thing is that despite the fact that he's went for tried and tested in the transfer market, maybe the interesting thing about Robinson here is him maybe evolving a little bit. So straight away in the League Cup, he's went with a back 4 every single match. Well, I don't think anyone would have assumed. And on top of that, something I found very interesting is he handed all the young players that were being sort of shuttled towards the door. He's sort of kept them all on board, given them new contracts, and some of them have still went out on loan. But he also gave a debut to a 15-year-old boy. A boy. I can't even call him a man yet.
Literal boy.
Yeah. So, in Fasania. So, like, the interesting thing there is that maybe there's a bit of give and take there. Is that I want these types of players. These are the players that I know will do the job for me in this league. But at the same time, him showing maybe a bit more long-term thinking and accepting that he's moving into a role. So I'm thinking that quite interesting, that maybe they're both, the two sides are giving each other something.
You can say that, but you can also say, like, he's playing youngsters. He's played 4 at the back. He did claim that 4 at the back was his preferred formation, even though he's always played with a 3 for St Mirren and Motherwell. Does he actually mean this, or is he trying to sell himself more as a more kind of progressive manager than he's got a reputation for being?
So the minute the league starts, right?
That's
Take
it.
the back,
Free the
Alisanya
back,
up front,
lump it along,
get Alisanya
kick
involved.
fucking them.
Aye.
You youngster out on loan. I don't want to see you.
But I suppose with Yogi and with Smith signing, it does. I mean, Smith was used in front of a front two for Livingston last season, so that could morph into that. But it does feel like two sort of out-and-out wingers and two out-and-out wingers who put in a power run. And Smith is an active player who does do his defensive work. So I get the feeling that he is maybe going to move towards that and be playing basically a 4-2-3-1. And it looks like Craig Cairns, didn't work there, just saying Craig. Kevin Nisbet is back to being flavour of the month.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I don't know, there's a lot of things to say here. Really. It feels like Hearts and Aberdeen have switched places once again, where one's getting humped in Europe and the other one's preparing well in the League Cup group stages. It does feel very much like Hearts at this stage last season, where he's identified that he wants a Scottish Premiership experience. And also even just the building up momentum in the Premier Sports Cup group stage. I do like some of the signings, like Connor Ronan. I think it's a really good signing. As you said, there's a potential goal scorer there in Kevin Nisbet. There's quite a few sort of unknowns, but there's been some there's been some good signs from the likes of Happy and from Guinness Walker, and even what's the guy, Amu or something they signed in January?
Luya.
No, he's one of the sort of unknowns. The Moroccan guy. Aremu, the defensive midfielder. He came in January and wasn't quite up to speed, but he's shown some good signs in pre-season and in the Premier Sports Group stage. And I suppose the biggest issue is that Aberdeen have chopped and changed for years. Done it again here. Big clear out of the last guy's players. Robinson looks like he's been allowed to chuck money at it, but if it doesn't work out halfway through the season, then what do? Do they stick with him and give him a bit longer than they've given previous managers, or do they just tear it up again ahead of next season?
I read that since Cormax came in, that we're nearly going to bit to 102 signings.
Yeah.
Which is like I know we like turnover in Scottish football, but surely that's a lot for any club on planet Earth.
So yeah, that'll be over the course of, to be fair, it's over the course of 6 to 7 years. But for a club like Aberdeen, you're right, that's far too much turnover. Even last season, when they brought in a number of these kind of, Lazatic was one of them. There was a few others where it was these kind of, they seem to be trying to get younger, but to kind of taking their chances on these boys clearly with talent, but coming into a different environment that probably didn't suit ultimately in the end, and it didn't work out, and they've gone the complete opposite this time around. I can't help but be a bit sceptical. For instance, if he's played at, to be fair, he's used him at both right back and in the centre. But I think Lewis Mayo, for instance, he's somebody that only really suits playing in a back three, and didn't really play for Killie much towards the end of last season because Killie stopped playing that formation.
It's easy emergency. Is that smash if needed? Lewis Mayo, I'm going back to what I know.
Did you say the same about Jack Milne? Is he more I know we've not seen a ton of Jack Milne over the last couple of years, but he got a fair number of minutes last season, and again he looks like somebody that I think looks better in a back three rather than a back four.
I'm also concerned about Yogan, I think, or Yogan. He last year for Dundee was somebody that was very easy on the eye. Dundee fans liked him, but his final ball was always lacking.
I've already seen some Aberdeen fans saying this, that he's a difficult player to play against, but he doesn't put numbers on the board.
One thing I would like about,
or he didn't last season.
The one thing I did like about the Yogi is and looking at it from Hibs' point of view, I was saying maybe that's kind of guy I would get, a young player who maybe demands to play all the time but can ball carry, so that means you could have him as a squad player. That's the kind of way I was thinking of him. But I was at the same time, he's so raw that it just feels pointless having him on loan. So the fact that they have actually outright signed him, he does look like a player that you can develop. And for a player of his age at 20 to not have a final ball, it's not unusual, is it? And if you're willing to give him the time and the space, they can develop him into a good player. They did also go in for you haven't just used the Scottish market. They did go for, is it Bradell?
Yeah. Sorry, we'll get on to that, but just to kind of further go on some of my doubts about these other guys. Brad Lyons is one that was like,
no thanks.
Yeah, I was just quite surprised that after his last season at Kilmarnock, he moved up in the Scottish football food chain. And even Lewis Smith, like, he was very good at Livingston last season, but you often get these guys that are really stand out for bad teams. But then because
they get to do everything, everything gets to go through them.
And then when they move up to somebody that's a bit better, it doesn't quite work out for them. He's somebody that's had a lot of potential for a long time. So I would, on a personal level, I'd quite like him to eventually kind of move towards realising that and become a big player for a team as big as Aberdeen. But I've got my doubts about that.
See, on Brad, just before you move on about Brad Lyons there, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but do you think that Brad Lyons is the kind of player that if you got the rest of the team correct, then he could sort of fit in well to that?
So I was going to come on to that. How this will work is if guys like this are able to provide that kind of nucleus and maybe a bit more team spirit, considering how many nationalities the Aberdeen team used to be made up of, and guys and didn't understand the league and all that jazz. If these guys could come in and provide that, be consistent performers whenever they're called upon, like, you know what you're going to get out of them, then you allow the star players in the team to then go and win you matches, and then that could get you up to like third place. But that will depend an awful lot, because I'm looking at this Aberdeen team and I think it is these international players that you talked about, they're going to have to, I think, come through, because if you're looking at the known quantities in this Aberdeen team, you're talking star in this league, you would say Kevin Nisbet when he's at his best. And they could build a good platform for Nisbet to go and shine in this team. But then you're looking through the rest of the side. Stuart Armstrong looked really good to begin with last season. It fell off. He might do that, but he is also, I think, 35 years of age. And then you're looking around the rest of the squad and you're thinking, nobody else here have I really seen.
Ronan.
Even Connor Ronan. So
it was a long time ago.
It was a while ago. And see, when he was at St Mirren, I remember being kind of flabbergasted at the time that Aberdeen, Hibs and Hearts didn't want to sign him.
I was raging.
Yeah, I thought Hearts should have signed him as well, and I was surprised that there was no interest at all. But it's kind of made me doubt and think, well, maybe there was no interest for those three teams at the time for a reason. And it's somebody that kind of knows his game a bit better than Stephen Robinson, who's decided to sign him. I can't remember if he was St Mirren manager at the time or not, though.
Because Ronan, like that one season, especially at St Mirren, he looked like he could do everything.
Yeah.
He would drop in deep, he could drive the ball forward, hit shots through the box. He'd be able to play those curling little balls in behind. It was like fucking De Bruyne playing like the Scottish football version of that. He was really that good. So I was surprised when he went to the MLS, and I don't think he done badly, but also I've not heard that he was like pulling up trees there. So maybe you're right there. But I am excited just on a player that was so fun to watch a few years back, getting him back and seeing what he has to offer again.
But I think where it depends on where Aberdeen will land at the end of the season will depend on whether guys like Malua, Friedel, Muller, whether these guys can come in and provide something a little bit different. And like I say, like Kevin Nisbet can be the Kevin Nisbet. We know he can be, but has been, I mean, Kevin Nisbet's top flight career in Scottish football has been very up and down.
Yeah,
definitely.
So is Mitov going to go and Muller come in? Is that how this?
Well, it sounded like
it.
He said that before he signed Muller, Robinson was saying that he was expecting interest in Mitov, but I don't know. But like looking at it, it seems like he wanted to maybe upgrade on Mitov anyway, because it's not as if teams have been battering down the doors for Mitov. And one of the teams that was interested was Dundee, and he felt that if Aberdeen wanted to keep Mitov amid interest from Dundee, they'd be able to do that. So it sounds like, reading between the lines, that Robinson's happy to move on from Mitov, and it maybe isn't that surprising given Mitov had a wee bit of a difficult season last season after being the best keeper in the league, arguably the season before.
And he gets injured all the time, which he shouldn't as a goalkeeper. Simple as that.
On the other side, Robinson, there's a reason why he's there. Like, even if Aberdeen fans are underwhelmed with Stephen Robinson, like they don't like the style of play, they're still kind of like miles behind, like Hearts, for instance, maybe even behind Motherwell. I still would be very surprised if they finish outside the top 5. I think Robinson will just get them
stability,
especially in the kind of long winter months. I can just imagine Aberdeen being that team that you really don't want to face whatsoever, and it will just grind out results regardless of performance.
Brad Lyons has just been brought in for, remember this common room that he wanted to build?
Yeah.
in Batodry.
He's just there for vibes. He's a vibes manager.
Yeah, completely in there. like the guy who stays on at sixth year. He doesn't really have any hires to do. he's just there. He's just there for the laugh.
Like me.
Just there for a bit of fun.
Playing Mario Kart.
Yeah, putting 50 Cent on. Everything's going to be fine. And then maybe everyone will have a laugh.
DMX to go and give it to you.
Yeah, that's maybe Brad.
That must have played about 1,000 times in our common room over the course of that year. The common room were trash, and then St Augustine's never had a common room ever again.
No, my head went through a wall.
And you got put through a window.
Yes.
Well, Aberdeen, to take it back to them, they at least have a game to start off with that they 100% aren't going to lose. So at least they've got like a wee bit of an easing into the start of the Scottish Premiership.
They got the momentum.
They do have a bit of a difficult start, actually.
I was about to ask who they played, and of course it's Home Hearts. So yeah, they're either just the football gods say that they can't lose that one. So that's a good start. And there is something to be said for building up that momentum, as you kind of mentioned earlier. Hearts doing it last season, Aberdeen doing it under Tulane, building it up throughout the group stages, winning all your games, having that bit of confidence. Because it doesn't really matter the fact that you're beating a lot of shite. I mean, it matters to a point, but the point I'm making is that
you can't read too much into it.
Winning becomes a habit regardless of who you're doing it against.
Yeah, and you've got Nisbet getting 6 goals in 4 games, and a guy who's very much a form player.
Aye.
That would be, you'd be thinking at least the first 5 weeks are going to be good.
What do you think of Nisbet and Olusanya as a pairing? If he plays, that would have to probably sacrifice the 4 at the back. But if that's used at any point.
I mean, I don't think it doesn't lack sense. I mean, Olusanya likes to just run around, and it would mean that Nisbet can stay around in between the posts. And Nisbet's finishing ability, like all round, is brilliant. Like he scores like the breadth of goals, the types of goals that he scores, and they include like headers and volleys and free kicks and slots and pile driver. You know, he scores them all. And I do feel like if they can get it right in Nisbet can go on and score 16 goals. He can in the league next season. We know he can do that. If you get people around him, and then Olusanya would just be a nightmare, and then he can occupy 2 guys at once, and then if that gives Nisbet the space and he's really adept at picking it up, he's happy to drop in and collect the space, and then he can shoot from all these different angles. I think it would work in theory.
Right, before we move on, predictions for where Aberdeen will finish. Tony?
6th.
6.
Can I give a range? Or do I have to give an
answer?
I have to give an answer. Trust me, it tripped me up last year. I just finding out I had to put Rangers like 8th.
You're really right. More Russell Martin stayed the entire season.
I will go 4th. Back in European football.
Here we go, 4th. I am swithering over this. I'm going to go. Despite the fact, despite me saying that I'm less than convinced by their signing policy, I still think they'll finish 4th. Probably because we'll just get on to all the other teams and why I don't like the look of them either. Right, let's move on to Celtic, last season's champions. They tried to make it as difficult as possible for themselves, but in the end, they did end up as double winners once again. This was despite having 3 managers over the course of the season, and you can maybe even count it as 4 if you want to count Martin O'Neill's 2 separate stints as different. Brendan Rodgers left the club in late October. O'Neill came in initially to steady the ship, but it was only supposed to be a brief union. That changed when Wilfred Nancy was hired as Rodgers' permanent successor, and promptly lost 6 of his first 8 fixtures. Well, his first 8 fixtures. 6 of his only 8 fixtures, including the League Cup final to St Mirren. This moved the board to go back to O'Neill and Sean Maloney for the rest of the season, and it all worked out in the end, buoyed by a terrific end by Daiza Maeda. Some key Celtic players coming back to fitness, and that meant that Celtic pipped Hearts to the title on the final day and easily defeated Dunfermline Athletic in the Scottish Cup final. So far this summer, things have been quiet. Infuriatingly quiet if you're a Celtic fan. By the time this podcast goes up, the deal for Kasper Hogg should have been completed. That'll be a club record free from Bodo Glimt. But Karabag attacker Camilo Duran is the only other signing. Meanwhile, Daiza Maeda has been sold to Ipswich Town, while key contributors off the bench towards the end of last season in Kelechi Iheanacho and Marcelo Sirachi have also left. So fans still aren't exactly enamoured with the club's board as a civil war between them continues to rumble on. So, guys, will Celtic's hierarchy continue to get away with doing the absolute bare minimum this season and secure a 6th successive title? Craig?
Well, at least the signings, it looks like there haven't been many signings, right? And it looks like there could be a lot more players that still leave Celtic Park. So it looks like they still need a lot of signings. But at the very least, it looks like they're bringing in some good players. I
Yes.
mean, the one player they've brought in so far scored in his 3 pre-season friendlies so far, and looks like quite an exciting player. I think he's going to be good fun, Duran. And then Ho has a really good. We're still not entirely sure how you pronounce it, but he looks like he's got a.
I think it's Ho.
Ho.
It's like Ho, but then with like a slight G at the end.
Right, okay.
I won't be doing that.
Big Cashman.
So it looks like they are bringing in, on the face of it, quality. It looks like they are bringing in good stuff, but they need much more of it, especially because they basically they've replaced one of their star performers from last season, basically in Maeda, and then they've finally brought in that striker to replace Kyogo from 2 years ago. So they're still kind of playing catch up, but at least these signings look quality. What I would say is that Celtic's failure to modernise over the last few years means that they're paying Bodo Glimt £11 million for a striker rather than being Bodo Glimt, rather than making moves to be the next Bodo Glimt.
The Celtic board have said that that's just... They've got
the market's changed. The European market's changed.
They've got so little ambition.
I know.
People are like, well,
what can we possibly do?
What about Bodo Glimt? Why do you try to be Berlin? Well, they're just an outlier. Can't be like them. What? What are you on about?
Agents. What about them? Yeah, they've been around forever. And they're a problem for everyone. There's nothing you aren't in this sort of island alone where everything's a problem for you.
I was going to say the problem for Celtic. It's not. I suppose it is a problem because they should be aiming higher than just to win the Scottish Premiership. They're a fucking massive club. They should be aiming to progress as far as they can in European football and grow themselves up that way. And then if they do that, the domestic scene will take care of itself because they'll be that fucking rich and be loaded with such talent that you can play a reserve team every week and you'd still win the title. But they managed to. Well, the problem is, and the problem is for the fans, and I know the fans won't give a fuck if they end up winning 10 in a row for them to get to this, but it's the fact that the Celtic board are just emboldened in their actions because they keep doing it and they keep winning the league. Mm-hmm. So until they do that, if they have, and it's like I've said, by their own admission, they don't have any ambition to really get much better in European football at all. Their ambition is just to keep winning Scottish football and to make sure that Celtic never have a Rangers style apocalyptic moment.
Don't collapse and fold. I'm sure you'll manage.
It's like generational trauma from the scares of the mid-90s when they do really out of business. We can't do that ever again, even though none of these guys had anything to do with that. But it's just it continues to happen, and this season again. I mean, we'll get to predictions later on, but you could just easily see them winning the title, even if they only sign 2 more players.
Well, I mean, if they go and get Hassan, the Egyptian winger from Oviedo, and then they're going with that as a brand new front 3, it does look good. Duran obviously then move into playing the wide role, and Hogg plays centre forward, and then Hassan on the other side. It is can we do a little bit of this? It's funny though, it's all because it's Celtic. You always look at the negative side of it, and it might be unfair because they have put their money where their mouth is, and they're going for sort of players that have done well in either the World Cup or in the Champions League, because obviously Duran got 5 last season and Holland got 6, so they were in the top scorers in the Champions League. But it's always you're just because you don't believe they've ever thought anything through, you're just maybe they seem bothered about Duran leaving that club. Why are they not bothered? Why is it only 6 million? If he scores 5 goals in the Champions League, why is no one else interested at 5 million? And then Hogg especially, where are you coming from? Bodo Glimt. Famously, the players go on from there and do great. And they're not just specifically good in this role. Again, that's unfair, but you can't help but have these nagging thoughts. Hassan, World Cup. You're not meant to sign players off the back of the World Cup.
I wonder what the midfield's going to look like as well, because there's been rumours about Callum McGregor changing his agent. There's been talks about him going to Saudi and things like that. Arnie Engels probably be away this transfer window. He's almost away in January. Nigrin's going to attract interest and already has. Hatate looks like he's going to leave. He'd already fallen out of favour anyway. So that's a brand new midfield they potentially need to build anyway as well, or maybe even at least 2/3 of a midfield that they need to.
They can't be going in with Luke McCowan, Bernardo and Oxlade-Chamberlain. And to go on other things, what's happened with Iheanacho? It's
that was bizarre,
insane, because he looked quite happy to play the role of backup striker, which he was doing really, really well. I was like, that's fucking perfect. You've got him locked in on a contract.
So
They had a club option that they let expire and then try to renegotiate with him.
Sadachi as well, who was
Basically saying, please sign me.
yeah, exactly.
And he was decent, and he was willing to play the role.
Aye.
It's hard to fill. These roles are really, really hard to fill with, especially if you're going to sign an £11 million striker. Iheanacho knows he's going to be on the bench, and if you've already got him locked down, sorted, right, let's move on to the next bit of the day. And now they've still got this problem to go, because they'll need to go kind of Johnny Kenny, can't they? They've proven that they can't use Osmond. They probably can't rely on him to be the backup. So maybe Yang will play, and then Duran would maybe play centre forward if something went on. I don't know.
He has been playing centre forward since he came in. But obviously, it would look like he would move.
Do we get the sort of Larson and Hartson or Sutton that we had? Martin O'Neill back to his roots. 3 at the back.
3 at the back. Surely need better centre halves to go with 3 at the back.
They might need some wing backs as well, because again, like you're saying, Alistair Johnson surely be getting loads of interest, and again, they don't want to get in this situation again where, like with Hatate and Maeda, where players are just unhappy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they don't down tools as such, if they're not totally in it.
Well, Maeda did for half the
and he
season.
just decided, right, I'll try it. I'd like to win this now.
Also, it will help me get a move elsewhere.
Yeah.
So.
But Carter Vickers is fit again, and he's played in pre-season, so that might be exciting. That's a huge upgrade. In the centre
Trusty, yes.
Yeah, absolutely huge. But
they haven't replaced Schmeichel yet either.
Like they've done the So they've got it looks like the front three might be like that.
What are they doing? Why do they do this all the time?
So I mean, you're saying if they're getting charged over odds, they've already spent. It looks like 11, so it would be like 21 million on the 3 forwards. The midfield's going to have to be similar, and it's like they've backed themselves in a corner that the board are so scared now that maybe they're forced into spending like huge money.
They were on the verge of getting 20-odd million for Engels, so I'd imagine it'd be similar again for him. So
then go out and
there
just
would
spend
be
that
money
again
to reinvest there. Yeah.
So does anyone trust them to do that well?
And even like giving the job to O'Neill was weird earlier this summer, where it wasn't just assumed it was going to be right if he's won the double, if he's wanting to stay on, it'll be done within days of the cup final finishing.
And the backroom staff.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
And they still don't have a head of recruitment and various other positions up the chain.
Somebody do some more.
They really are just taking the piss.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Out of office is constantly on. Even they're sitting at the desk at Selling Park. Pretend I'm not here. No answering the phone.
Spend more time on WhatsApp than me.
Every time the phone rings, just look at that. Don't recognise that number.
Yeah. I think it's a creditor. Still scared about that.
So it's hard to say much else because it's kind of Craig said, it's hard to know who else is going out, how many other players are going to bring in. It's always with Celtic so unbelievably slow. But as we can just guess as best as possible at this time, at this juncture, where are Celtic finishing in the 2026-27 Scottish Premiership? Tony?
Top of the league.
Top?
Yeah, they're going to win it.
Right, you two are going top. I am going second.
Oh.
I'll get to that later on.
Don't get excited, Hearts fans. It's not you that's going to be top.
No, it's not. Right, let's move on to Dundee. So, the Dead Spark Club were one of the main talking points of the Scottish Premiership summer last year after making the unpopular decision to hire Stephen Presley as a replacement for Tony Docherty. It was so disliked, it even had taxi drivers hanging out of motors to shout their displeasure at STV cameras. And it looked like the move would turn out to be as disastrous as everyone thought when they embarrassingly exited the group stage of the League Cup and followed that with a dismal start to the league campaign in which they got some notable results, drawn at Ibrox, beating Celtic, but won only 3 and lost 11 of the first 18 games. However, things turned around towards the end of the year and Stephen Presley's team had a decent second half to the campaign, ultimately finishing 8 points clear of the relegation spots.
And Stephen Presley became one of the most likeable managers in recent history as well.
Yeah, because he just got rid of all this baggage, it was all the hoodoos that he managed to clear.
But I think he just doesn't give a fuck either. He's just got this air about him, and I don't mean it in an arrogant way. He just he couldn't care what anybody else thinks, and there's something quite endearing about him.
It's a good skill to have. It's a good character trait to have as a football manager anyway. Because there's going to be everyone just giving you opinions, like taxi drivers hanging out the windows.
And us.
Yeah. At least taxi driver was screaming at the cameras about something else.
However, going into this campaign, they will have to contend with some key departures this summer. Luke Graham was sold to Stoke City for a fee reported to be around £2 million, and even his centre-half partner Billy Cometto went down south as well to Charlton Athletic for roughly around about 500,000. They lost goalkeeper John McCracken, wingers Cameron Congreve and Tony Yogan, and even somebody like Jan Danda, who played a decent part for them last season. He went back to Hearts, but please, Dundee, you can take him if you want. Wait, it's Danda's still there, eh?
Yeah, yes.
God's sake.
Is he
Yeah,
not
please,
playing?
Dundee, take him.
But the new manager don't fancy him a bit. I'm sure I read that.
He done the usual thing. The new manager's done the usual thing so far of playing Jan Danda and played Blair Sprittle in a deeper role and then immediately figuring out, oh, you can't do this thing. Don't care how good they look at training in those positions, it doesn't translate to games. But Dundee have made some signings. Some have made strong initial impressions. Alan Forrest has showed up well in the League Cup group stage, and Gary Cocker, our resident Dundee fan, is already in love with Owen Bevan. But their squad is far from finished. They still need to get in at least another 5 or 6 bodies by the general consensus. So, again, what we can say at this point in time, can Dundee kick on under pressure this season, or is this just another campaign of please just make it to 10th?
Tough, because I think the fans will rightly demand a bit more ambition. There'll be a quicker start wanted. There'll be consistency needed. He won't be able to just get by the time everyone being surprised. Oh, he won a game. Shit. Maybe that's not gonna work if he goes, which he did at periods last season, 4 defeats in a row. That type of thing. That will become a problem because they've got actual expectations now. I think the goalkeeper sounds like a interesting move in Owen Goodman, because it's like a 22-year-old goalie for Crystal Palace. But I looked at it, he's already got over 100 men's games under his belt in the lower leagues in England. So that must be all right, because it's not usual pretty much at any level that a 22-year-old goalkeeper would have that amount of games. So that might be quite a cute signing that they've got there.
It does feel very last season. Maybe feels like not quite as bad as this time last year, but it is very reminiscent in that they are half a team or half a team's worth short in their squad. Stephen Presley's already said that, and also said that the players that they've brought in aren't like ready-made and are needing time to get up to speed.
That man can control expectations better than anyone on planet Earth.
He's also said they're knackered because they played 11 games because he had them playing the 7 friendlies before the...
Yeah, I heard that. Why? Why then? Why are they already knackered? Surely you're
in charge of that.
You have control of that. So yeah, it does. This is going to be one of the ones that's more difficult to judge until there's more of a team there, but you would have some confidence. I mean, this time last season I was tipping them for relegation. I wouldn't say that now because of what we've just watched last season. I do trust Presley to have an eye for a player and to put a team together like he did last season. One thing I would say is that the wide areas is one of the places where they had a lot of joy last season, and in pre-season and the Premier Sports Cup it's been Joe Bevan, who's at Albion Rovers not that long ago and still very, very raw, and Charlie Riley, who a lot of talent, but he's
also at Albion Rovers not that long ago.
And they both played quite well. In the
they have
cup,
been doing all right, but
he's
he's definitely had his injury issues as well, Charlie Riley. So I would say they need more competition or upgrades there, but I would back Presley. There's still a couple of good players left over from last season. The likes, I was a big fan of Ethan Hamilton, for instance.
The back four's pretty decent as well if you look at either Halliday or
Dre Wright
on the right.
Dre Wright's going to end up a winger.
Centre-half partnership of Astley, who was Brian Astley was one of the most improved players in the Scottish Premiership last season. If Owen Bevan, if he could stay fit, then he'd be a good partner alongside him. And
they're looking for one more.
Tayo at the left back didn't look amazing in the League Cup group stage.
But they can play Dre right there, and they can play Brad Halliday on the right if it turns out that he's rubbish.
Okay.
And Dre Wright just does a job anywhere.
And then the central areas, like you said, Ethan Hamilton's there. Finlay Robertson can come in and maybe play that time. And they brought in, what's his name? Zan Basir, who can play the sort of like attacking midfield role.
Should also probably mention as well that Simon Murray was revealed played the majority of last season with a small tear in his ACL. And that's... We could have thought Murray had just his form had really dipped because he was just quite old. He's now 34, and that still really might prove to be the case, because if there's one thing you can't defeat, it's Father Time. But who knows? Maybe he'll have a bounce back season. It's taken to this stage of his career in general for Murray to become the player he has. So maybe without that ACL problem, he's going to have a stronger year than he did last year. And also, Ashley Hay was somebody that last summer looked crap and was barely played them for the first half of the campaign. He looked like something in the second half of the year. So at least, and Joe Wesley as well, they've got options there up front.
And that's interesting because they did at half-time in the League Cup game just there against Clyde, they actually made a switch and they took the news Basir off, who's been attacking midfield, and he actually put Wesley on up front, and they went to a 4-4-2, and they brought Alan Forrest on as well and took Charlie Riley off, and they went to a flat 4-4-2, and then Wesley went on and scored 2 goals, and Murray actually set up one of them, so that looks like an avenue that he might be willing to go down. And when they've got those, if they don't get enough of the sort of the wide players that we're saying they probably need to replace, such Congreve especially, he was a top wide player in the top flight last season. If they don't get that, and maybe it is smart if they don't quite get there. Well, I know I've got 3 decent strikers. Why not turn one of them into a partnership? And Alan Forrest, seasoned player, probably can cope playing in a 4-4-2.
I think he's potentially a really good signing. I expected him to go to. I actually thought Kilmarnock would have had a look at him, but I thought it would have been a club of that sort of ilk that he went to, and I do think that he's hard working. He can be very productive in terms of scoring goals and setting up. I know his form goes in waves a little bit, but he did really well against Clyde. Came on at 0-0 and opened to score him with a good goal. I think he might have set up one of the other ones as well. So yeah, potentially good signing in Forrest there as well.
And I think a key thing as well, I think you kind of alluded to this, is that last season it was a new management team, new kind of structure, new kind of recruitment structure off the park, loads of new players coming in, and they had a dreadful beginning. But this year, it's at least better. There's at least much more of a foundation there. They do need to bring in more players, but they also needed to do that last season. And they were starting from much lower down. So you've got faith in Presley now and the structure they've got at Dundee to at least improve them enough that you don't have to worry necessarily about kind of the immediate threat of relegation. And also as well, Presley showed himself last season to be very adaptable, because we were kind of tearing our hair out in the first part of the year, just how kind of awful they were to watch. Like the most negative team in the league by a mile. But he probably knew that team was just not good enough. And even the kind of guys like Yogan and Congreve coming in eventually managed to let them off the leash a bit more, but they were young players. So he probably just thought, like, these young players coming in for England, I need to have this defensive structure because I can't go too attacking, because if they forget to track their man or whatever, we're going to be hurt by this, and there's not enough firepower going forward to take those kind of gambles when, like I say, you've got Emile Aqua and Ashley Hay before he turned good up front instead. So yeah, there's a lot. I don't see them being much better than they were last year, but I think they could be incremental kind of steps, and maybe, who knows, maybe a semi-final.
Oh, away to Hampden. I mean, that would be massive. And as you mentioned earlier, Presley has been adept at removing hoodoos. That's something he's done. Like, he'd done lots last season. It's a big thing that, despite the fact that I think sometimes the form got overrated at Dundee, because there was a bit towards the end of the season, I was like, 3 games, it could still go down, and everyone's acting like the Presley's done this incredible job. Like, still get relegated. He just wasn't obscenely bad. So, but he did show, like, then they got obviously the games, the Dundee derbies and that were weird. Their performances weren't necessarily good, but they got good moments in them as well. Obviously they got points, Ibrox, all that. They beat Celtic, and they've done things that they hadn't done in a long time. So if you removed another hoodoo, which is 20 years since they've played at Hampden, I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Must be, it's one of the worst things going in Scottish football for a club of that size, because people get to Hampden by mistake. To never ever just come across a moment where you just get the draw landed for you and you make it is mental. So I'd say that should be a massive target for Dundee.
Am I right in saying Hearts made it to Hampden the season we got relegated, didn't we?
Probably twice.
I've got to cup finals by mistake.
Actually, we did, because we didn't play the second leg because it was the next season. Right, okay. But we actually did. The season we were relegated, we got to both semi-finals.
And Hibs have got to finals and had some of the worst times in their period in their entire history, because the team was absolutely shit and should never have got there. So again, just by accident, you can just turn up there.
Yeah.
Right, guys, predictions are where Dundee will finish this season.
Ninth.
9th for Tony.
I've got 10th.
10th. Oh, Craig thinks they're going to struggle a bit more on this. I've got them 8th. I didn't initially have them down as 10th on my notes there, but then just as I was talking, I was like, nah, I actually fancy them to have a better season than I've given them credit for. I'm going to keep doing this for everybody, then I'm going to be left with a team saying, like, I think they're really good. 12th.
Yeah, listener, don't ignore listen to the content of what I'm saying, but ignore what I say at the end about where they're going to finish in the table. That's just forced upon me. I never set that up before I do these.
I've got a list here that I'm working by now, because otherwise I don't know how it was going to end up.
Right, let's move on to the other side of Tannadice Street and let's go to Tannadice itself. Dundee United, last season's 7th place finishers. United were the most unknown commodity going into last season, having lost some key players in their impressive first campaign back in the top flight, including top goal scorer Sam Dalby. Goodwin and United hierarchy scoured the continent and further afield to try and uncover some diamonds in the rough. In the end, it was neither a masterful success nor was an unmitigated disaster. They finished mid-table after being consistently inconsistent all campaign, seeing them win no more than 2 games in succession in the league, no more than 5 games without defeat, and only had 2 losing runs of more than a game. Fans became increasingly disgruntled with the manager as the campaign wore on, but nothing really turned Tannadice particularly toxic, and at least they had the joy of beating Celtic twice. So this summer they've cooled it a little bit on the transfers from mainland Europe. Only a couple of players have come in from there, where they've dipped in the English market a little bit more, with the most notable being Jack Walton coming back to the club. He is going to be also backed up by Jordan Amisa, which gives Dundee United a pretty good 1-2 goalie. I was going to say tandem, as if they could play together there, but you know what I mean.
Double pivot.
Yes.
Double pivot keepers.
Give Stephen Presley the chance.
And centre-back Michael Forbes coming in for West Ham, who so far in the Premier Sports Cup group stage has looked fairly decent. Meanwhile, Dylan Tate joins from Falkirk. They have, however, more worryingly, doubled down on signings from Dan Anda, with 3 players arriving from the A-League. And there's also been a bit of distraction in pre-season with doubts over Will Ferry's future. United accepted a hefty bid for his services, but the fullback did not want to play in the Czech Republic. It initially appeared like he'd be frozen out and forced to move, but he has started 2 of the club's 4 Premier Sports Cup games. Meanwhile, they said goodbye to the likes of Craig Sibbald, Ryan Strain, Lucas Stevenson, Amar Fata and Christian Kereses. So, I think the big question for this one is, with fans already not entirely enamoured with the man or his style of play, does Jim Goodwin see the season out as Dundee United manager?
I think he will. I think Dundee United could be on for a good season here. I think they might be on for a return to the top 6. I totally agree with what you're saying there. Like last year, it felt a bit scattergun, the recruitment, but here it feels like they've reined that in a bit. I think to go back to what you're saying about the keepers there, I think Amissa's maybe better than some of the first choice keepers they've had in recent years. You look at like your Birighitis, Maynard, Brewer, who was in between those two? There was somebody, Kirichenko or something like that. So I think Amissa, we're talking about a couple of years ago, Amissa was a young keeper at Ross County, but he's got really the stature and he had these moments, but he looked a decent goalkeeper. He's got another couple of years experience under his belt. So yeah, I think their backup keeper is better than some of the first choice keepers they've had in the past. I think Dylan Tate's a really good signing. And then, there's maybe a few sort of unknowns in there, but I think the Australian market can be a good one if you get it right. There's somewhere, I know it's very hit and miss, but there are some.
Just give you the looks there.
And I think one of them's from New Zealand. Does that change?
I would say
it's worse, if anything.
I would say it's been Cammy Devlin and 30 other cunts.
And what's the guy named Rose? He has scored a couple of goals in the League Cup already, which I know that sometimes numbers can be inflated in the League Cup group stage, but at least he's not going into the season drawing blanks on his first goal. Yeah, but apparently he's nothing like that. Apparently he's a very... No, I know you're just saying it tongue in cheek, but apparently he's a very hard-working striker. Yeah. And I liked Sapsford last season. I know that he got a wee bit of criticism at times, but scores goals, always seems to be in amongst another season, a full season under his belt. I think there's goals in this team. And I think that Jim Goodwin did that last season because the season before that, they were very safety first. There was not many goals in the team, but they weren't conceding many. And then they seemed to let the leash off a wee bit last season, and there was a lot more sort of goals at both ends in Dundee United games. I think we might see a continuation of that, because I'm not convinced they're that secure at the back still, despite the upgrading the goalkeeper. But I think there's goals in this team.
Well, Sapsford, I think, is a key one for me. Like, the other two, we'll wait and see, and how well they show up. As you said, they've looked good so far, but can never really hard to tell. We've had loads of players that have arrived. Sophie and Musa, I think, being the best example of a player who absolutely tore up the League Cup group stages, and then once the league season started was hopeless. But Sapsford is the kind of known commodity there. And it's basically kind of two halves of the season last year. First half of the season was really good. Second half he was quite poor, but it was pretty much well documented that he got quite homesick. And it was especially after the terror incident at Bondi Beach, because he's from Sydney himself, that he kind of, I think obviously that maybe freaked him out and kind of made him miss kind of home a bit more. And if he's over that, if he's managed to settle himself a bit more,
they gave him a bit of an extended break to go home in the summer there.
If he is over that and he can make it through the season without that being an issue, then yeah, I think Dundee United can be a good team, because he's certainly got quality. Like you say, Tony's movement, I think he's really good off playing off the left, but while being a really kind of big goal scoring threat as well. He's obviously got a bit of quality
across the front as well.
That's where it's really going to work well, I think, because with Rose, what I was hearing is he likes to drift, and he said he's really strong, he's really hard working, he can play wide as well. And then if they're going to play what looks like at the moment a front three, so they've got Randell or Mergame as other options in there, and then was it Metsoko is the other one that they've got there. If they've got all these players, it sounds like they could be really adaptable, flexible, a lot of good movement. And then when you go into the midfield, like, it's huge. If they can get, again, like you said, Sapsford another year under his belt, and I think I agree, because a lot of the time when you watched him, he got offside quite a lot. He was a bit too eager at times. But then you go in the midfield, the guys like Kamara, who's got loads of potential, loads of like football in him, that you think he could be good. I know he's 29, but you think coached right, played with the right players, he could be really good. Agai, the defensive midfielder, I think he had some really good games last season again. So if you bring that all together, I'm with you, Craig, about that you can see where it starts to work. The massive thing they need Walton and Amisa, and they need Forbes to be good. Like, there's no grey area, because at least we can't be going back with Yovu, Esselink, these guys. Well, we can't be going back with them.
I think there's something there with Ovu, and I'd be intrigued to see Esselink in a back four, because that's a big news actually as well. Is that through all the games so far in the League Cup, Goodwin has played with a back four, and we know how much he loves a back three, and how much United fans have criticised him for sticking to the back three and really kind of trying little else. So that'll be interesting how that works. Esselink's probably just too slow, to be fair, at the end of the day, to maybe be a reliable player at this level. Yovu's definitely got something about him, and it's also like Ross Graham needs a big season. Like, he was poor last campaign, and you've also mentioned Forbes as well. So there's 4 starters there for those 2 positions. If they can get top class performances relative to level. If they could get that out of 2 of the defenders, and like if Walton could be as solid as he was the last time he was at Tannadice, then you've got that good base to build on. And you've also got plenty of options in midfield now. Like, Ajay looked great in the second half of last season. Kamara was another one who really fell off, but if he could recapture the form for the first half of the season,
Savelge.
If Dylan Tate can finally play well for a manager who's not called John McGlynn, then they've got options there as well.
Could you picture Savelge, if it doesn't work with these centre halves, ending up going to play Savelge? I picture it from a mile away. Savelge
He'll play everywhere.
In a 4, he's maybe too wee.
Just see it happening. Just see it. I picture it all happening now. There's shit. He's going to have to slot in and do that. And then we'll come to January, we need to buy a centre half. I mean, there we go. There's my main sort of
so
the future.
I've laid out the positive route there for United to have a really good season. The negative is probably just what just happens all the time. And even though they've turned over a lot of players and it's a new squad, managers just don't last very long. And I saw recently that Jim Goodwin has now jumped over Peter Houston. And in fact, he is now Dundee United's, in terms of living managers, the longest serving ever. Like, I think there's 5 above him in United's history, but they've all since passed on. So he's jumped above them there, and it just feels now, and especially because United fans don't, like, I've never really taken to him up.
He's always been on the verge.
Yeah, he's always been on the verge. It just feels like a natural endpoint is coming sooner rather than later. And I've really got a feeling United, that is going to come this season, and United are going to struggle initially, bring in somebody else in, and then ultimately be safe. But I have initial problems with this team that Goodwin can't solve, and then he's chased at the door by October, November time.
It's very possible. I mean, I didn't mean to say he was constantly on the verge of losing his job. He was more constantly, felt like he was always a few results away from being under pressure.
Yes, sir.
With the high expectations that you can sometimes get at
other than
United.
in fact, even the season when they finished fifth, he was definitely getting some criticism still for fans.
The style of football wasn't great.
Be interesting if they do keep Will Ferry. I know, like, obviously what to sell him, but they also don't have people knocking down the door for him. And obviously it was a really good deal they got. And I would, like, if I was them, I'd be wanting to sell him for around that. Sometimes I'd see the more value in the player, the way he played towards the end of the season. If I'm not getting over like $1.5 million, I'm like maybe just sticking. Like if I'm only getting like 900k or something, I maybe think, well, I've got a decent squad. We've put some players together. Why not look at trying to make the money through actually performing well and him being part of it and putting a good team out there than just, as I say, rushing. Like what you're talking about, there was chat about maybe freezing him out. I'm thinking he's smart to keep on going, because I think he especially toward the end of last season, he had a poor first half of the season, but he was the main reason they stayed up probably at the end, towards the end of the season. So yeah, I think I wouldn't be so sure about getting him out the door as quickly as possible just to make a quick buck. I'd be wanting good money.
He was one of the most creative players in the league last season. So there was the top three was him, Kieran Tierney and Alexandros Kiziridis, I think, and I think Calvin Miller was after them. So he's like one of the most productive players when it comes to creativity.
And if you've got Sapsford and Rose playing, like, switching around out there and like coming at that, might allow them to move into a 2 when Ferry comes forward to give them more extra option in the box for his really good delivery. Starts to, like, you picture it all starting to make sense. And Rose is a big guy and he looks good aerially. So then you've got like that starts to look like a really, really good option when they play off each other, then move into the box. So yeah, I wouldn't be in a rush to do it if I was Dundee United.
So what are predictions for United this season? I'm going with my negative one. I'm going 10th.
I'm going to go 7th.
7th.
Oh, no, sorry, 8th.
This is going to come back to bite me, but I'm going with 5th.
Oh, I like it.
Sorry, can you move that back to 7th? I'm gonna just put the pair of hearts there. Something to do.
Yeah, Hearts finish.
That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. So I've decided I'm gonna do it. I think. This is what happens to say when there's problems when you've not prepped this bit of doing the bit. You just end up being like, I might as well just do things on. I'm gonna have to remind you later on you've got finishing with which positions are still available. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, let's move on to Falkirk. The 2025-26 campaign went much better than anyone expected for the Falkirk Bairns. Despite having a team still stocked with players from their days in League One, they managed to surprise everyone with a top 6 finish. Not only did John McGinn's side take their early season licks and grown confidence as the campaign progressed, they did so with an expansive and easy on the eye style of play. McGlynn's canny eye for a player in the English loan market elevated them, while they were thankful for the emergence of Barney Stewart and his goal-scoring exploits in the second half of the campaign after they sent him on loan to Dunfermline for the first half. The only major blot in their copybook was a dreadful performance and, let's just say it, embarrassing result to their rivals Dunfermline from a league below in the Scottish Cup semi-final on penalties after a horrendous game at Hampden Park.
My word.
Extra time was alright, but the 90 minutes, Jesus, that was terrible.
So bad it forced me to leave the game that I was about to go to.
Like many teams in their position, Falkirk have been something of a victim of their own success this summer. Stewart and Calvin Miller were sold to West Brom and Hearts respectively, while Tate, as mentioned, signed for Dundee United. They've also going to be without the services of many of their impressive loanees from last season, such as Philip Lisa, Henry Cartwright, Ben Brogio and Karel Wilson. They have very much stocked up at the full-back positions with Jack McMillan, Ryan Strain and Scott Tanser all arriving, though McMillan has played in the centre of the park at times during the League Cup group stage. There's also buzz around Latvian centre-back Dennis Melniks, and Craig Sibbald is a solid Tate replacement. But from the early exit in the League Cup group stage, it appears that a lot more is needed towards the top end of the pitch. So guys, do you think Falkirk, well, assuming that Falkirk aren't going to finish in the top half this season, and even John McGlynn himself has said that he expects this campaign to be more difficult, how much do you expect them to struggle in the bottom 6?
So they're definitely finishing bottom
Well,
six now.
John McGlynn says it's going to be more difficult last season, so that means they've got to be bottom six.
I don't see many goals in the team. They've added Joe Gardner today, so I'm not going to say I know too much about him, but that's something they are trying to address, is to get more quality in the final third. But yeah, they've lost a lot. It's going to be difficult to replace Barney Stewart's goals, Calvin Miller's creativity, and you speak about Craig Sibbald there, but Dylan Tate is going to be a miss as well. Philip Lisa could play all across the back four and was good in just about every position he played. So there's a lot of they have to make up for a lot of bodies that have gone out the door there. And I mean, the crucial thing for me is I don't see a ton of goals in the team yet. So at the moment, I think they're really going to struggle, unfortunately.
They're relying on sort of maybe McKeever staying fit for a whole season.
Yeah.
That makes, because McKeever surprised me a bit at how good he started.
Yeah.
And how much they missed him when he went out. Like the
Initially, until Stewart started scoring every week.
Yeah. Like, so that I was surprised at that, because I kind of turned my nose up at McKeever, if you know what I mean. Like we did with a lot of them in the top flight level. Parkinson, I think, is going to be a really interesting one, because we didn't see him much last season, but when he did play, he was like Tynecastle, he was superb that, and like really, really, really good that night. You were like, wow, that's what a find this is.
And then he got injured, I think.
Yeah, like right away. So like, if he comes back in, and if that performance that you saw at Tynecastle last night is like kicking around the norm, then you're like, right, they're going to be A-okay, because I would argue like he looked better all round than what Stewart did, in terms of like how much like his all round game as a striker there. I'm assuming with Laidlaw coming in, this is the most John McGlynn thing. Laidlaw, and I quite like it. So obviously Laidlaw, there was so much about him coming through at Hibs, but just like what we all say shit about Scottish football right now, is we just didn't ever get to see him play for Hibs, even though people were fans of him, he's going to be good. People just go, right, we'll take a risk on him, take him down there for buttons and see what is. So him coming back up, I know he done all right, I think, in Brentford's under 23s. They used him as a wide player quite a lot. And now he's got this.
I think he's been kind of rotated between him and Ben Parkinson, have both been used up front and on the wing so far.
So I think Laidlaw, the fact that he had that role and at Brentford, it seems like that, like you're saying, that he'll play a dual role, and that might be smarter than just lobbing in a guy who's never really played professional football, really. At 21, going into playing centre forward in the Scottish Premiership sounds like a big ass. He'll take it there. Aidan Doherty is another wide option. Broggio was such a guarantee for like shooting and creating moments. And I know he didn't always score, but he was just like, he helped Falkirk always have pressure on teams. And Doherty, that's a big one. Him and McGovern being 20. But
McGovern's another one. He's 18 and he's brought over from Glenavon. So he's another one in terms of like Laidlaw, like McGlynn just picking this young attacker and be like, let me mould you.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Like, there's like the fact that he's done that again with Doherty, McGovern, and basically Laidlaw. I'm quite excited to see how he does it. I'm sure he'll get something. He'll make one of them good. I'm going to be like certain.
Yeah, he probably will. Yeah.
But the more interesting side of this is we've seen McGlynn, what he does with young players and brings them on, is how good's he going to be at bringing on players that are actually signed that are on the way down? Your Ryan Strains, your Scott Tansers, Sibbald even. Like, I mean, these are guys who you feel their careers are only moving one way, really. And it'll be really interesting to see if he can use the same magic he's done with young players and bringing players up through League One, about sort of reinstating players at their former glory, if you like. Especially, I can see Tanzer maybe being a backup to McCann, but obviously he brings set pieces and really good crossing ability. Strains, crossing ability combined, that's very much trying to replace Calvin Miller in the aggregate, I feel like, bringing in two fullbacks that are basically their main sort of attribute is their crossing mainly. So it'll be really interesting to see how he does that with them, and if he does that, because especially with Strain was so good and felt like such a big pickup for Dundee United, and it really hasn't worked out with injury. And it'll be really interesting to see if McGlynn can do that magic on something, because if he can, and he gets Strain back where he was. Unfortunately, though, that means that another young player who that magic seems to have ran out with, Keelan Adams, the fact that he brought in two right backs above him, that worries me.
Like I said, McMillan can play both full-back positions, and he has used them in the middle of the park in the League Cup. So So possibly that's what he's just got his mind on there for, to just be another guy in the engine room. That's maybe where he identifies him, because it would be
That'd be good.
Adams wasn't that bad last season. You have to sign 2 right backs.
Exactly, and you want to see him getting more of a chance to come on, and especially like with McGlynn and Falkirk in general, the type of club they are.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want them to be putting the stops on a player who was looking like he was going to develop into something pretty special.
I know this doesn't sound very McGlynn, but do you think there's a chance he switches to a back 3 at some point?
Definitely
you were talking about, you said Tanser potentially as a left-sided centre-back. They've signed a fair few centre-backs. I think Jack McMillan can play centre-back as well. And like what you're saying there with Strain and Tanser, their best attributes, getting forward and getting balls into the box. Tanser had a couple of good performances in the Premier Sports Cup. He was one of the sort of bright lights despite their cup exit. Scored a good goal. It was a fantastic pass from Spencer. I don't know if you saw it.
Great goal,
He's
Aloha, yeah. And the wee side foot into the corner. The run was brilliant from the outside.
So maybe if it's going to be a bit more of a tougher season, they maybe need a bit more insurance. They can still get that width from those wing backs. Maybe that's something that he's thinking about this season. I'm not entirely sure.
A good point as well is that if it's not working for these young wingers that he's brought in, he doesn't have to just keep playing them till they go completely out of confidence. Like he can go quickly. Right, I'll switch it around. We can have a game or two where we use these wing backs in there, because he name checked playing Tanser as a left centre back. I'm not convinced Tanser would be a good left centre back. Frankly, I don't think he's particularly good in the air.
No.
I don't think he's amazing in duels.
No.
So I'm not massively convinced by that as an individual thing. But if he's brought him in, there you go. And I suppose with Melnick's, and then he's first love in Lewis Nielsen that nobody seems to understand. And obviously still having Liam Henderson.
Fans were raging when they announced that inside Lewis Nielsen.
So still got there is enough centre halves there that I think, Craig, you might be right, that I think we'll definitely see Falkirk use the back 3 at some point, and that, like I said earlier, alleviates the strain on this batch of young wingers that he's bringing in.
I think if you're going to be negative about Falkirk, you would say that last season. So 2 things. One, last season they started slowly as well, but they had the nucleus of guys like your Calvin Millers, Ross McKeever. I know McKeever's still there, but like Miller, McKeever, Ethan Ross was still playing at the start of the season before getting injured, and there was
Spencer's very important to how they play as well.
Tate as well, linking midfield and attack. Spencer very important. Spencer's still there, so there are pieces still there of guys I've mentioned, but it was the fact that they took those early bumps and were able to kind of grow in confidence together, because they all kind of knew the game plan, and once they kind of figured out, actually we're good enough for this league. Calvin Miller, somebody that actually started last season quite poorly, I thought, for Falkirk, before becoming
they had to move him into 10 at one point to get him going,
before becoming a real standout player for them. Is that going to happen if you're then just putting a bunch of these guys in, like the guys we've mentioned? Like, there doesn't seem, it's not gelling right away. Are they going to have that familiarity with each other, the trust in each other, the confidence in each other, that they can take those early season knocks and keep going? Or are they just going to go in their shell because it's a completely new environment, completely new teammates for just about every single one of them, apart from those that I've mentioned? That's where things could get really sticky for them going forward.
Yeah, no, that's a really fair point. It's that they don't have that unity that they had before. But I'm intrigued, as I said, but the fact that Doherty is Blackburn signing for Linfield, but not much football under his belt, tells me that there must be like undoubted quality.
He only played half an hour in the last game against Stranraer, but again, not great opposition. But Falkirk fans were quite impressed with his directness.
Just for to be plucked out there for Blackburn, straight away means that and he's barely played for Linfield even. So there must just be obvious skill and talent there. And then, as I said, like a move to, and this is what McGlynn's career has done now, that these guys are maybe just going to be like a conveyor belt. You're good, you're going there for a season. Everyone just does it for down south. Go and get your John McGlynn year and come back ready. So I'm excited to see what he does them. But again, I'm kind of probably going with you, is that I think they'll just not be as good next season.
The other side of it is that if you're trusting anybody to get these guys to connect and to form a cohesive, free-flowing attacking unit, it is John McGlynn.
Yeah.
And they've got a solid base. Like if he switches to a back 3, that's causing me a wee bit of concern, because I don't think they necessarily have to do that. But if you look at their defence for last season to what it is now, Scott Bain's still there, good goalkeeper for this level. Back 4 of Adams or Strain or McMillan alongside Henderson, Melnick's. If he continues to look as impressive as he has done in the League Cup, and then you've got Liam McCann at left back, and then you've got a decent backup for him and Tanzer. In front of them, Spencer and Sibbald. That's a really solid base to build from. So I think they're good. Despite what I said, the worst case scenario, I think Falkirk will be fine. I've got them for 8th.
I've got 11th, and I will change my mind. Sorry, Falkirk fans, I will change my mind if I see a bit more quality that they bring in the final third. But at the moment, I think they're going to have a really difficult season.
Did I have anyone 9th yet?
You do not have anyone 9th yet.
Welcome, Falkirk. And that's still not terrible.
No.
And I don't mean 9th, and I mean that because I think that
especially after what they've just had.
Yeah, and
I think Falkirk fans would take 10th at this point, and just to keep them up and on.
The fact that I think the league's going to be really tight next season.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone's going to get cut off.
Honest.
So I think you could be 9th doing well. You could have like a decent chunk of points.
Do they have a new pitch yet, or is it they've got one more season?
One more season.
Yeah, so they're obviously saving.
Only one more season about every club for then till eternity.
And apparently they're going to do it anyway. Even if they get relegated, like worst case scenario, they're still going to go to grass because long term that's what. And they're building a training centre as well for the end of next season.
Fair play. That's right.
10th place, keep Premiership money, and then use that kind of infrastructure improvements to build from there. Right, let's get to Hearts. Last season's runners-up. The Jambos almost did the unthinkable by winning the Scottish Premiership, backed by the first full season of Jamestown Athletics as the club's recruitment partner and Tony Bloom's £10 million investment. They led the Premiership table for the vast majority of the season.
Do we have to?
Before being caught by Celtic right near the end of the campaign. The club run out of luck at the worst possible time, with Dazza Maeda remembering who he was, some brutal misfortune with injuries as the campaign drew to a close, and some questionable officiating calls centred around the same penalty box at
Ding, 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 ding.
But it was a hugely exciting campaign in Tynecastle. It showed that it is possible, after all, for someone outside of the old firm to seriously challenge for the Scottish Premiership title. This summer, however, has saw the most upheaval of just about any team in the top flight. Lauren Shanklin, Cammy Devlin and Derek McInnes all scuttled away to Rangers. Also departing from last season's team were Michael Steinbender, Benny Meningame, Mark Leonard, Frankie Kent and Islam Chesnikov, with club captain Craig Gordon also retiring. In their place have come 12 new Jamestown-approved signings, along with new manager Wouter Vraken. Things did not go off to the best of starts with a 4-0 defeat away to Sturm Graz in the Champions League, and we must stress at this point, while we are recording, this podcast it's been recorded before tonight's second leg at Tynecastle. So all our opinions on Hearts may age very poorly, very quickly.
Don't think mine will.
But there is a new style of play at Tynecastle, new signings like Tom Renauld, Malachi Fagan-Walcott, Amadou Baisai and Sabri. Help me out here, Craig.
Gwendou's. I'm not entirely sure if you pronounce the end of it, because now it's French words.
Gwendou.
So I don't know if it's Gwendou or Gwendou's.
Sabri Gwendou.
Let's just call him Sabri.
Big Sabri have excited the fans in what they've seen of them so far. So is third the best Hearts can hope for after so much upheaval, or is another crack at the title on the cards? Craig?
I don't know if it's on the cards, but I mean, if Hearts get things right, then it's there to be done, because as we've spoken about with Celtic making some good signings, but there's still a lot of question marks there. We're going to get to Rangers as well.
I mean,
it's not exactly... It's certain what's going to happen with Rangers next season as well. So, I mean, it's there to be done again. It's just how quickly Hearts sort themselves out, because there's been a lot of change, very difficult start to the season. It's been a bit of a rushed pre-season, and the manager only took over like a couple of weeks before, so he wasn't even able to bring the players back. They're like a pre-season friendly behind. There's lots of injuries hanging over from last season that players are still coming back to. So I think Hearts will come good at some point. It's just how bad and for how long it is at the start of the season.
Potential to be the Motherwell of this season, basically.
I would still probably guess third or fourth or something like that. I wouldn't.
No, we'll get to that.
No, I'm just saying I wouldn't. But your question was about a title race.
Yeah, sorry.
I wouldn't predict a title race, another title race at this point. But I think there's potential ingredients there for it. Like I say, it's how long and how bad this start is. And I thought, listen, even without the manager change, I thought if Derek McInnes and Lauren Shanklin were still there, I still think it would have been a difficult start to the season for Hearts. Your first games away to a team that's playing the Champions League not that long ago.
Yeah. And Pittodrie.
And then the midweek midweek weekend to start.
Yeah.
The raised expectations, the target on your back,
Yeah.
all those kind of things. So I thought it was going to be a difficult start to the season. It's even more difficult when you rip the spine out of the team and you change not only change the manager, but you bring in a completely different style.
Yeah.
So lots of question marks, but I do think that the most important thing in football is players, and I think there's enough good players there for Hearts not to have a disaster of a season.
Yeah.
Just how good it is, I'm not entirely sure yet.
I did agree with pretty much all of that. Tony?
Yeah, no, I just don't think it's possible for Hearts to do a title challenge this season.
Probably
I
not.
just don't think. I just think
It would have to be like a Burley style catch lightning in a ball where this team just, once they find the right formation, just magically fits together.
Yeah, it's just like there's just nobody that's ever experienced Scottish football pretty much in the entire squad and the management team.
And even that Burley team had Presley and Hartley and Webster and those guys.
You're acting like lots of players to move up a level, as always with Jamestown. So I just don't see it being possible. That it has to take time. And I still think because Hearts probably wouldn't have wanted to do it like this, but obviously because of the speed of what happened for last season. But you are probably as well now. If you like now that it's happened, now that all the last season was almost too good in terms of like the parameters of the steps that you wanted to take. Now that it's been ripped out, you're as well just starting from scratch and just going, we're going all in. Jamestown was always eventually going to go all in on. So you're as well just doing it now. You're as well trying to get the manager who's going to play the completely different type of football. You're as well, it's happened. The team's gone. The squad's gone. So you are as well just going, Ken, what? Let's just do it now. It's just about whether the fans are up for a year of, with the expectation.
They're going to lose their shit in the first few months of the season.
It's like they accepting the fact that it is a transition year and to give that manager some space. And I think that's where the season's going to go. As you were talking about the length of time, if it goes on too long, Hearts fans are famously
the manager could lose his job if it goes on so long.
That could easily happen because I don't see the Hearts fans being let's call it mature enough to accept that what Hearts are going to try and do.
See, to pick up on something you said there, now like either of you can answer it, but talking about, okay, that's ended now sooner than we would have wanted. Let's move on to like full Jamestown, if you like. Was there another obvious Derek McInnes type appointment out there, or did Hearts have to go down this route?
I think they have to. I think it was just a natural kind of progression after McInnes left. Like, you would obviously keep... There was talk that McInnes was going to go move on regardless. I thought that was quite overblown. I think you would keep him as long as it's a success. Like, regardless, like, Jamestown's not just about finding great footballers. It's about finding diamonds in the rough. Like, there's guys that Hearts signed last season, and Oisin McEntee and, like, Thomas Magnuson, maybe, for instance, as well, that I'm not sure would have necessarily arrived under a different manager who wants to play more...
McEntee especially.
Very
McInnes player.
Yeah, McEntee was definitely like, McInnes was like, sign me a big guy who's versatile. And they're like, oh, we've got this boy.
One of the first things he said when he got the job, that he wanted bigger midfielders, and McEntee soon followed.
Yes,
and then played it right back.
And Magnuson's a big midfielder as well.
Aye, exactly.
So yeah, it's like guys like that. So I think Hearts would have just continued down whatever route we're like trying to bring in the best quality of players, but guys that more suited McInnes' system. But there is that train of thought that if you're wanting to sell on players for maximise your profits as much as possible, and also maximise the extra kind of money that's coming into the club through Tony Bloom and through James Anderson's kind of yearly £5-6 million donations.
Lovely,
as well. And also like, being one of the kind of bigger teams outside the Celtic and Rangers.
He actually owns us.
Writes off something really every season. And also like
that's what he says.
Foundation Hearts contributed a couple. So Hearts have obviously got the money, they're able to spend more than everybody else except for Celtic and Rangers. So long term, you want to play a style of football that accentuates that. That gets as many really quality players into the team as possible. So yeah, I think they've just, after the McInnes success, and McInnes, as many people have said, was just a great bridge. After they tried it with Critchley, whatever the fuck that was supposed to be, just like, right, no, getting somebody that knows the Scottish game who's going to be able to ground it results and at least have everybody buy into this idea. And then we were linked with some player in the 5th tier from some fucking fake transfer news account on Twitter, and somebody's like, just bin the whole Jamestown thing, it doesn't make any sense.
There was no point in putting another bridge. Your bridge is done. No point in doing another bridge on top of that. You're just holding off something that you're sort of pushing back the inevitability. The one thing that'll be really interesting is that the players that are brought in for like Mendy, for example, and the fact that players like Finlay and things are still there, is how much this guy is going to insist on playing the style of football that he's been brought in to do, and does he get the players of the high enough quality to do it, who don't sort of slip and fall on their face, both literally and metaphorically. And that's where I think there's a big danger. I think Mendy is a huge gamble. It's a huge gamble. Yeah, the defensive midfielder that you're.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Right, sorry.
Like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. Like a deep lying
Apologies.
player. If he's going to play deep defensive midfield, deep lying, taking the ball off centre halves, never played above a non-league level, and like over 500k. There's no way anyone's going to paint to me that is in supremely high risk, and not compared to like other players at Hearts.
Braga was a similar fee from the Norwegian.
It's professional. It's like that's still at that level.
I think as well,
forward.
I think as well,
when you're going down to the Norwegian third tier, which a lot of his data was from, you're quickly going into like part time and amateur and
I
things
think,
like that.
but Tony's point as well, though, is that Mendy's 29, so he doesn't really have much sell-on value.
And
Braga's more of a punt that if it turns out. And
he's also not playing that key role in this guy's position of like moving the ball through the lines. Braga, with his style of play and the aggression, I think you could quickly see where that was going to link. And again, like if Braga you can get away with a forward not playing that well. And the guy playing the Lynch,
if Braga was crap last season, Hearts would have they wouldn't have challenged for a title, but they still would have had a decent campaign.
That guy is like, there's a lot of put into that to go and play that role, and I found that a bit. But when it's Fagan Walcott, when I looked at him straight away, I'm like, yeah, I can picture all this, his height and all that, and he's young and he's developing. But this guy's like never played above that. I found that one like quite outrageously high.
Yeah, maybe you might be right. I can't believe I actually blanked on him, to be honest. But it's been a long couple of weeks.
And in that role that he's going to be asked.
But I mean, just to kind of counter, and I'm not saying that you're going to be wrong or anything like that, but McAtee only came from the league above. I know that you're talking about league versus non-league there, and there's been other players that other teams in Scotland have signed from the National League that have come up.
Not for nearly £1 million quid, possibly.
No, yeah, exactly.
Nearly 30 years old.
Premium.
I bet if he's crap, it's only $500,000, so we're not right there. Louis Moult was the first one that came in my mind there. I don't think he'd really played at any level. And then
St Mirren have had a few from that level that have been pretty good in the past.
It's definitely not unheard of. Like, it's not unheard of, but just like, I think it was a big punt.
Yeah, possibly.
And again, playing because this Vachin, the way he wants to play, I'm assuming that the guy in that role has to be of high quality. That's good, because if he's going to be playing front foot football, playing through the lines, passing it for the back, all that, blah blah blah.
One of my major concerns with Hearts, not just this season but going forward in general, is, and I know there's still 5 weeks left of the transfer window. So it's probably just a case of a fan being a bit too irrational about this and not kind of waiting it out. But kind of hoped that some of the other players, I kind of hoped that Braga would be sold by now, because he's the kind of big one. He's the one, if this is going to work.
Yeah.
Bought for 400,000, sold for however much it is, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever £1 million.
That's sold 10. I was assured.
And there was that game against Sturm Graz, so we could knock $1 million off of that. It actually wasn't that bad. There were certainly worse players in the park than him.
And then what's his name? The Greek winger as well. Like
Kizarides,
because he had a bad second half to the season.
And he was another one. If you get 2-3 million for him, then this is a case of it working perfectly, and then you could reinvest that money, and that's the hope. If it grinds to a halt in terms of getting guys out the door, then the investment for Bloom's going to dry up, and then the whole system isn't working as it should do. So, but it's also
36 players.
That's a long-term thing, obviously. But my fear for this season is that we had a huge squad last season, but they were kept happy for 2 reasons. One, we're winning every week, and you can't moan when the team's winning all the time. And 2, they were all fucking injured anyway. so
they were all needed in the end.
Everybody was needed. In fact, we needed more players.
Finish the season without a midfield.
So to find the Hearts, I'm finding it impossible to put a finger on how it's going to work.
Another one as well, Braga sold. So it depends on Bicey. It depends on how he shows up. But he could be maybe like a Braga replacement in terms of somebody who's a bit more, not quite your number 9, but somebody who could play up front occasionally, or could play kind of deeper, or play it wide, and kind of be a bit more versatile and a bit more of an X factor. But Hearts are definitely needing a number 9 that, I know it's easy to say, like, you need a number 9 you can rely on to score goals, and that's not what I'm going to say, but a number 9 who's better than Landry Kabori. Put it that way.
He looks like he's going to be great fun regardless, Bassi. I think he looks like he's going to be great fun regardless.
Definitely need a left-sided centre-back, I think, as well, because in this new system I don't think Stuart Finlay fits.
Yeah. Mendy might end up playing there. Played there a bit last season.
Right, well there you go. Okay, I'm a bond to Mendy now. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah, because Finlay didn't play and he played thingy at centre half.
Yeah, and apparently
That went horribly.
it's only a friendly, but apparently Finlay played the Wraith Rovers game at left centre back, and he did not look like he suited this style of play at all.
Well, and that's fine. Again, that's not unfair on. That's not even against Finlay in general. It's just the if you're going to change so dramatically in one season from one manager to the other, and I'm not saying then there's going to be casualties on that way. And Hearts, the whole point with Jameson, like you were alluding to, Craig, is it's all ruthless. The whole thing's based on being ruthless and going, right, we're selling him, he's at the peak now, we're selling that guy doesn't work now, he's at the door, we need to bring someone else in, and we look for the exact attributes to an exact way, and we ignore maybe the level of football overall to do that, and we get that in, and then you put it all together. But yeah, it's a big move for the manager. Like he would have thought, I think at first, this is cool, build the whole team, money with the sort of like the most in vogue, popular piece of software, but then at the same time coming, I've got shit tons of players, I'm now going to have to turn this all over, and the season starts now. I think one of those with really like, go to sleep one night, this is absolutely class, wake up in the morning, heart palpitations. Because I think because he's never really moved out of Belgium before, this is a big move for him. And obviously because of the eyes that are on the Scottish game, I know we slag it off, but there's often eyes because there's big clubs and so close.
And there'll be eyes on Hearts outside because of what happened last season, and because of Jamestown. Yeah, so people look at. So for him, it's a really big move for him, and there's a lot to do, and he's got a lot of work to do, and obviously he wants to do it in his own way. So he'll be relying on a lot of quality coming in, and I'm sure he gets a wee fright from time to time, as I'm sure Hearts fans do in general when there's non-league players coming in to do it. So where are Hearts finishing, Craig?
Also, was there not a manager out there that we could have got that hasn't also lost the league title in the last minute? Surely there was a manager. I'm going to go for third. I'm going to be pretty optimistic and say third. He's got
good. He likes to fly off the handle as well, with the referees and stuff. So he's got. He's got good potential to be memorable here. Yeah.
Basically, Jamestown have gone, we need a manager that's lost the league in the last minute of the season who's criticised referees.
I think Hearts will be good this season. I don't think they'll put a title challenge, but I think Hearts will be good, and I think third.
I'm going to go fifth.
Fifth. Right.
Would not be surprised.
Let's move on.
I was going to say eighth, but I thought maybe I'll get carried away. They're still spending millions of pounds. There are people who are buying absolute shifties. So.
Right, let's move over to the other side of the Edinburgh to Easter Road, and the team that finished fifth last season in Hibernian. So a bit of consistency for the Edinburgh Highbees, usually one to bounce between Europe and the bottom six, but they finished in the top five for the second consecutive season and got European football again off the back of it. They also almost became the first club, apart from Rangers in recent years, to make it through multiple rounds of qualifiers to get to the group stages of a European competition. Unfortunately, losing that late goal against Legia Warsaw and then going out. However, that's about where the positives end for Hibs fans. Not only did they watch their rivals in a title race right down to the end of the season, which I should add in itself did turn into something of a positive, but Motherwell and Falkirk finishing around them with a more attractive brand of football was something that rankled, as did the very disappointing exit to Dunfermline in the Scottish Cup. Despite being something of an...
And Russell Martin's Rangers in the league.
Oh yeah, of course, and Russell Martin's Rangers. The only fun Russell Martin had is Rangers manager beating Hibs. But despite his immovable status as club legend, the support has grown increasingly wary with David Gray's management, particularly his tactics and the insistence on the 3-5-2 formation. Following last week's embarrassing defeat to Kosovan side Malisheva, the knives are very much out at this point in time. In terms of comings and goings, there hasn't been a whole lot of change, especially compared to most other teams we're going to talk about in this podcast. Jason Kerr was a popular pickup. Nathan Lowe has promised goals, and Callum Wright got you excited, Tony, in one of our most interesting signing podcasts. But fans remain frustrated with a perceived lack of imagination as everyone's arrived from England so far. As for exits, we say goodbye to Eli Johan, and when I say we, I mean Scottish football in general, because he was always good fun. While mainstays of last year's team in Dan Barlazar, along with squad players like Kai Andrews and Dane Scarlett, have returned to their parent clubs. So, Tony, big question is, similar to the one about Goodwin at Dundee United, does David Gray see it the season as Hibs manager?
I mean, it's all based on Thursday. It really feels like it sounds better. Like I feel like Hibs is a club, and David Gray especially is on an absolute knife edge going into Thursday. people want, obviously a lot of fans want Gray to do well, obviously, and Gray has in theory done quite well, but we always have to look back, you always need context with it. Is that Hibs have spent loads of money in that period with Gray. He's been backed probably more than any other manager has ever had. He's obviously got trust from the support, so he's been in a pretty unique position. And really, when you look at it, when you move away your eyes from it, it's like the third place was still done with a very low points total. And then last season, there was so much on offer for everyone, and especially for a team that's spending money and has sort of stability, not just in the management team, but like basically across the whole club. They've had Malcolm Mackay's been there for a long time now. The Gordons have been involved there for a long time.
Yeah.
So the coaching staff had been there. So everything was been in place for a long time. So you felt that there was more to take it. Hibs were in a really good place to take advantage. And the exact same is there this season. And the problem with what happened last Thursday is everyone took a deep breath and thought, right, let's move on. Let Gray get the right players in. And the profile of the players he's brought in has been pretty much on point, I would say, for the type of players that Hibs were lacking, playing in that specific shape that he's gone for. But then for it all to just go like it did last Thursday, and all the sort of like bad stuff from last season, because it wasn't all bad, you know, Hibs relied a lot on individuals, I felt, at times, and they did have some big wins, but then they faltered every time that there was a peak ready to like, are we going to move into the title race now? Are we going to go forward in the cup? Are we going to make it into the European groups? It fell flat.
Like back to back against Hearts and Aberdeen, like Boxing Day, the day after Boxing Day, and then you beat Aberdeen after that, and it looked, that was one of the points where it looked like
we're going, and I think we won at Pittodrie after that, and you're like, right, that's it, we're right in the mix now, we're coming, and then it all fell on its face again, and that's the problem with Hibs. It's like the flexibility and the tactic. It's so frustrating with Gray because he bangs on about flexibility all the time. He signs all these players and he's always talking about wanting them as play dual roles, and then he just doesn't change the shades. You think you're lying. You're lying to me. Like, and it's so like, it's like you can see it. Yeah, and it's just like incessant, and it's just, why not? And then pre-season, Hibs did play four at the back a few times, and I think it worked out quite well. But yeah, with what happened on Thursday, it really didn't look good for Gray. For the simple fact is that manager's come out and done like a whole interview after it, and it was all in the Hibs Observer, talking about how he watched a lot of Hibs, knew exactly what they were going to do, the game played out exactly right, which is very similar to what Askew said last season. That's been more than one manager that's come out basically just saying we knew exactly what was coming and we were able to counter it, and the game went out exactly how we wanted. Then the information came out that another player came out and was speaking about the pitch, because Hibs players were slipping a lot on the pitch, and he was saying, well, the reason for that wasn't because we sprayed it, it's because you need to have specific footwear. It's a hybrid. Hibs chose not to train on that pitch before it, which is quite common nowadays in Europe, but yeah, that's when you're going to play the Island Seria. And you know that, right? Yeah, I'm going to presume that the pitch is going to be absolutely superb. So wait, if you're going to Kosovo, in my opinion, you definitely want to go and have a peek at the stadium, have a peek at the pitch, because you're going to assume it's going to maybe not be exactly up to the same standards that you're used to. So all that looked really bad on him. It looked really bad on him, and it looked bad on Hibs as a club.
Yeah.
And there's another issue in terms of like Ian Gordon, who's a guy I think is really enthusiastic, really wants to put the money in, really wants Hibs to do well. But there's always the thing is, does this guy know what he's doing? There's nothing in his background that would say he does know what he's doing. And he's like, I don't want to be rude and start saying things like using daddy's money and all that sort of stuff. But that does kind of get that situation that he's landed in a situation and he's the one that has to deal with it. And he surrounds himself with, and like with what happened with the Black Knights, there's always the stuff that about Hibs got approached for Bloom about with that before, the stuff with Poulsen in Midtjylland that he'd been talking to him as well, and there's been you don't know about how much of this is true or not, but it's like he doesn't want to let in too many people to tell him that he's shit. or to kind of just like maneuver him out the way a bit and go, let the guys do it now. And it's like he feels comfortable with Malky there and Gray, and not that you feel like maybe they all know how to use him. And how this is all conjecture on my part. This is me talking as a podcaster about how I kind of view what happened, and when I read between the lines and the things that you hear around the club. So it's like, will he be willing to make the tough decisions when it comes to it about Gray and Malky Mackay? Because if these League One signings that he's essentially made, they went through one market this summer to get in. As I said, the profile of the players seems right. Abdullahi playing as a defensive midfielder, maybe quite athletic. I think the idea is for him to be a bit more like Triantis in that. but is he good enough on the ball to take it off? Because you're playing 3 at the back. The problem is one of the midfielders either has to be able to take the ball off you and bring it forward, or one of the midfielders needs to one of the defenders needs to do it. That's lacked with Hibs since, because we had Lewis Miller, Triantis, and a big striker. So it all worked, the shape worked, and we've removed those really specific players in that team. It doesn't work quite as well. Hibs will still always pick up points because they've got better players in their teams.
Yeah.
They've signed better players, and they've got guys that will just win games in moments, and that's fine. But this is the problem now. It feels like we've backed ourselves maybe in a little bit of corner now with Gray. He's got left wing backs coming in Mayer, who looks athletic at the point, but again, is he good enough for the step up? Because he's making a step up. Low. That's a really pressure. I said this on that podcast about signing. It's like such a big signing to make. A lone player off the back of like what looked like now with Bowie leaving. That'll be like 7 million quid Hibs took in for Bowie, and you've replaced him with him, and it looks like we were desperate to get him, and it sounds like we were putting a bid for him, and he turned it down to come full time to Hibs because he wanted to come on loan, and we still wanted him, which tells me that's all the eggs in the low basket. That is the guy we absolutely want to come in and do that. He's 6'4", but that's a huge, a lot of like backing to give to a 20-year-old striker who's had a decent season in the lower leagues in England.
Yeah.
So again, the signings that have come in, they make sense, but they're all going to have to raise the game, and we're in a position where the squad just cannot move into a different shape unless we go and bring in a winger. And I feel you cannot have. I talk about this all the time when I do podcasts. Is squads have to have certain things to function, and having someone needs to be able to carry the ball and dribble. Right? They have to. You don't necessarily have to play with a 4-3-3 or with wingers, but they have to exist in the squad. These guys need to be there. So I think, and we're always the problem with you, and you're like, well, you don't have to use them all the time, but use them. Like he's perfect. He's absolutely perfect to come drifting in and out. Use them at the points that you need them for that. And I think Hibs need to do that. And I think for Hibs to do well next season, they're going to have a huge game on Thursday, and I think they'll have to win against Motherwell as well on Sunday. I think it has to be a good start. If it doesn't, I think the fans are ready to turn on Gray, and they'll be instantly always ready to turn on. People are always ready to turn on Malcolm Mackay, let's be honest. So if it all doesn't go well, that's what happened. Then it's all about, you've got a guy at the top. Is he brave enough to do it? And the biggest problem, back yourself in this corner with the squad, and there's no way Hibs have other players, their managers in mind, ready. There's no way Ian Gordon's got like a succession plan.
To add to that as well, what might work in Gray's favour is that you spoke about that first season under Gray. It was a low points total. It's because they got off to such a bad start, and he was on the verge then, but then he pulled it back, and then they had an amazing run. So he's shown that he can pull it back from the brink as well. So how long do the Hibs hierarchy let it go until
how brinky does it have to get?
Exactly.
It just feels like it's an absolute knife fight. Hibs could win 5-0 on Thursday, then go and beat Motherwell, who come back from the Pharaohs. They've got loads of injuries. Then everyone's like, I do feel like with Gray, the momentum has to come, and he's shown when momentum gets going that he's able to galvanise the fans. Everyone will get on board, and the fans will want to. As I say, nobody wants Gray to do badly, but there's over a long period of last season, people are bored. And he doesn't seem willing to make any sort of changes on it.
To go with your worst case scenario as well, if Gray, because is he going to lose his job if you go out of Europe and lose to Motherwell? Would you?
I think the fans will want that, and I think it'll be quite clear.
The fans will want that. Whether that happens still in August, because it was similar around Lee Johnson, but he managed to hang on just till like the end of the month. But the problem with that is kind of what you were saying. Then there's another manager coming in. There's no succession plan. You don't know what he wants, and you've got a squad that's only fit for one style of play. And even that style of play as well. Like somebody you didn't mention so far is like, for instance, like Jack Iredale, somebody who was very important for that style of play working as well as it did at the time, and now he's not played well really for
season.
Really.
And he was absolutely abysmal last Thursday, and I mean like a 0 out of 10. The Iredale, he was him and Chaiwa were like eye-openingly bad. Like,
Chaiwa was like fucking hell. You're right.
It was like he was unwell. So there's all that, and it's like, so like again, it's like when we took Lewis Miller out of that bit, you lost the guy who would drive forward from there, and it meant that you didn't have to have a ball playing. So Hibs need to add these types of players if they're insistent on doing that. Iredale has to come out. It was so weird that Kerr didn't start. Hanley's been at the World Cup. He's not fit. He's got that in pre-season. Why has he been dropped in when Kerr's played the whole pre-season? He was here early enough, and he's done something bizarre. So that again speaks to the thing about he was wanting minutes in Hanley's legs. He was treated like a fucking friendly. Is the reality. That's exactly how it looked like. And these things really speak up when I was talking about the not going to use the ground, all that stuff. It didn't look like they were able to get a lot of footage on Gospel. So that means that it's just not been taken seriously enough. And he needs to get away from that, and he needs to have this big result now.
It's still a team as well. It doesn't look like it's got much creativity if McGrath or Cadden aren't playing.
That's
and Cadden only plays about half a season.
I think there's goals there. With Boyle and Elding will score you goals.
Low probably still between the
I can't say I know too much about him, but he's got goals in him whether he hits the ground running here or not. But Elding's showing a lot of potential in the short time he's been here.
The one looks like he's regressing rather than progressing under one.
It's behind that though. It's behind that. I agree with what you're saying earlier and what Fowler's just said there. There's not a ton of creativity. There's not a ton of pace. And if Gray, I mean, I guess some Hibs fans want him to move away from the back three. Does he even have the players to move away from back three?
And he's went more. He doubled down on the back three with the signings he brought in, and people are getting angry with this. As we always say, the horseshoe. Right, it's not even the horseshoe in the midfield. Horseshoe doing a back fucking three. that could get really, really frustrating. And like you're saying, we needed to move on from the can. He can't rely on him to be a main creative outlet, but he'd be a really good squad player. Really good squad player to have just now. So they've got McGrath and Wright's obviously brought in as another part of creativity in there. He was going with 3-4-3 as well. He went with there, so it was like maybe he's wanted to do that a few times. Where he wants to play like dual tens in behind, and then that would make like a box midfield, and then maybe looking for another avenue in. But it's like you always just like it doesn't make sense. Like Clegy came in, a guy who wants to play in behind. There's nobody plays through balls. It's just like he's on hiding in nothing, even though he's not been good. And I don't want to fully absolve him of blame, but Eldon stopped scoring goals. Clegy wasn't really getting any goals. You start to think, Soto looked shit. When does it start to go like maybe it's the way we're
Boyle
playing?
wasn't even really scoring last season.
Yeah, so when do you go in? When does it go from are we always signing shit strikers, or is it because of the way that we're using these strikers? I think for Hibs to be good, they need one of Soto or Clegy.
Well, I want to come to that point before we move on because we've been very negative on Hibs so far. So what's the positives? What's the route to Hibs finishing third, for instance?
I mean, I think there is
quality in the team. There's Mulligan, there's Chilwell.
So now there's the other avenue, like Hibs have got Mulligan back as a way of another route up the pitch.
Yeah.
So I said a lot of this when Mulligan left, we lost another avenue up the pitch. Abdullahi, I think, is going to have to be good, or whoever comes in to play that role. That's the other thing. As I said, profile of the players that he's brought in seem to add up to making sense and improving team like Mayer doing the left hand side, quick, athletic, wants to put crosses.
Callum Wright box to box,
scores goals, is creative, gets assists. So it means that all of them need to be good. That's it. And that's it. And you're asking them to step up. And I'm not saying it's impossible. If you're only signing 4 or 5 players and you want them all, and you've picked them out, and it looks like Hibs got all the players that they wanted, like because it all happened so early and quite quickly to get those players in. So you'd assume that's again, but if they can get another left centre half in who can get them up the pitch as well, like as a not just a beta, another player who can do that, who can move up, who's athletic, good in the air. If Abdullahi's good in that role in defensive midfield, or bring in another one who can do that, and bring in an option as a wide player who can dribble, so that option is there to play, then I do think it is possible that Hibs can get a good season. If they catch the light, get the momentum, I do think it's possible, but there's a lot hanging on all those players you brought in from League One all being good.
Yeah, I would add on to that, like Jason Kerr's a good signing, and if you are going to stick with the back three, he showed ideal when he was at St Johnstone that he's very good at leaving that back three and getting forwards. He's got the ability to do that.
I'll be stunned if he's not playing on third. I still didn't make it. As I said, it really screamed to me a guy who's played every minute of pre-season, been there and then not playing.
That's something you could a stick that's been beaten against Gray as well in the past. Too loyal.
Yeah, and it's definitely getting like new players. There's no room for the new players not to play, because we can't have the same thing as last season. And it's boring. It is boring. Yeah. And you do win games. As I said, that you're always going to win games when you've got good players. You know that well, but you always feel like they're being held back rather than put forward. But I think it is possible Hibs could still be good. I really do think that. But as I said, there needs a lot to fall into place straight away with all those players. And if he brings another couple in, they all have to be good, because it's all filling holes in that system that it has. And if he's refusing to change it, then they have to all be correct.
Off the back of that, what's your prediction?
Fourth.
Craig?
I'm going to sound biased here, but I'm going to go 7th.
I've got 7th as well.
Yep.
I don't think Gray's going to last it. I think it's going to be one of those other transition seasons for him. So I don't think he's necessarily going to go in August. I think he will win on Thursday, and I think he'll last the first couple of months. but it'll be underwhelming. The football will still be crap, and you'll not get great results, and fans will turn. You'll get that transition thing where a new manager comes in, is immediately really quite good, and his fans really buy into it, and then he starts to struggle towards the end of the season, and the cycle starts again.
And we're back. But just is so annoying because there's so many teams not ready, and Hibs actually do have the squad ready.
Yeah.
It's just about whether it's good enough and whether it's going to be used correctly, and that is fucking annoying because you don't get the opportunities that are coming up last season and probably what looks like will happen this year, including Hearts. You know, and like just so much flux, and you're not, but you're just not going to get it right because maybe your owner's too scared to make those decisions that make that happen.
Right, let's move on to Kilmarnock. Last season, they finished in 10th place. The pre-season negativity around Rugby Park proved to be accurate after Stuart Kettlewell failed to prove himself as the right man to replace Derek McInnes as manager. Things actually started alright for Killie. They were third in October, but they dropped down the table like a stone thereafter. Much of it stemmed from the fact that Kettlewell decided to go in the season with only Max Striek as the veteran goalkeeper. He had Eddie Beach beside him. He turned out to be absolutely hopeless, and then they tried a string of keepers before Striek eventually came back towards the end of the season. By that point, Kettlewell was long gone, replaced by another really unpopular choice amongst the fans in Neil McCann, assisted by Billy Dodds. But McCann silenced the doubters after a sluggish start and a really strange habit of conceding goals in the first minute of away games. They were able to rescue the ailing club and lead them to safety. Now the onus is on McCann and Dodds to build their own team after a lot of familiar faces at Rugby Park left in the summer. Brad Lyons, Lewis Mayo, Liam Polworth, Matty Kennedy retired, David Watson went to Bolton, Bruce Anderson and Marley Watkins also released. Meanwhile, Finlay Curtis, a huge part of their success towards the end of last season, has to turn to Rangers on loan. Notable ones that brought in so far: Bailey Rice has arrived as another Rangers loanee. Mark O'Hara comes from St Mirren, where he used to be club captain there. And they've got a decent backup now to Striek and Callum Ferry. The rest of them are pretty well unknown so far. And there's a bit of positive and negatives to take out of the Premier Sports Cup campaign. On the positives, they didn't concede a goal. That's good. It's showing up with defence. Neil McCann's not exactly known for that, his management style. On the other hand, they scored twice in 4 games, mainly against lower league opposition. So
just complete change of what happened last season.
Yeah, quite strange. So we know that McCann is somebody that could get a tune out of a team in the short term. But how do we fancy him to build on that success at Killie this campaign? Craig?
I think he seems to be a really... I share some of those Kilmarnock fans... or shared some of the doubts when he got the job, because Neil McCann's had a really funny career where he's kind of gone between management and punditry, and he's not had like a long stretch in management. It's like he just comes out every now and again to manage or to be a coach somewhere. But he's done okay. He's done okay in those times that he has been a manager, including last season for Kilmarnock, where I was quite surprised with how well they did in the end. He seems like he knows how to set up a team. He's tactically quite astute, and I like the signing of Mark O'Hara, and I think this is going to sound stupid because he only scored 2 goals in the Premier Sports group stage, but there's a couple of guys that you can get goals from there. I would cut Tyrese John-Jules a wee bit of slack, given that he's just coming back from quite a bad injury. But you saw Joe Hugill, after initially struggling, had a really strong end to the season. So there's guys there that can score goals. Like a couple of other teams, I'm a wee bit concerned about the lack of creativity. They don't seem to have much in the wide areas. Finlay Curtis was a very important player for them in the second half of last season, and it's going to be very hard to replace him. So I would say they're maybe a couple of players short, but I think Kilmarnock are another team, like I was saying about Dundee United earlier, I think they're another team that could be a wee bit of a surprise package if they get another couple of players in.
That's the key. So the signings they've kind of made so far, that obviously, judging by what's happened in the League Cup, haven't got off to the best of starts. So they've got
Ewan Owen?
It's definitely not Ewan. I guess it's no... I can't remember. I learned it the other day again and I've forgotten it. Ian Owen. Let's go with that. He comes in from Barry Town, so obviously that's a bit of a kind of jump in terms of level. You've also got Rashawn Matherin, who is a right winger. Eric Ring is somebody that's I believe Bournemouth paid money for it at some point. He's playing on the left, potentially also playing in the centre because they give him the number 8 shirt. But these guys might need a bit of time to get up to speed. They might not be at it. If they're not at it, then Killie are going to have to dip back into the transfer market towards the end of the window and bring in a few more kind of players to try and roll the dice a bit more. And that's where things could get a bit tricky. I do wonder whether they could possibly get Finlay Curtis on loan again from Rangers. You would think that maybe with him playing for Scotland at the World Cup that Derek McInnes would like to use him. Derek McInnes certainly likes to use wingers. But there has been, and we'll get to Rangers soon enough, there has been murmurings from Rangers fans that they're not entirely impressed with Curtis's performances so far for the Ironworks club and think that he may need another season on loan. And
did he sign a new deal, Curtis?
I think he did.
Yeah. So that would be that would maybe be a smart thing to do, is to get him out again another year under.
The thing is, McInnes doesn't know we're not on Rangers yet, but McInnes doesn't like any of the other wingers he's currently got, so he's about the only one that he's willing to use at the moment.
I think that's where it's going to be key for Killie, because if they're showing up well defensively at this point, and again, we maybe have to take the level of opposition in mind. It was Wraith Rovers, Elgin City, Hamilton Accies and Peterhead, so maybe we shouldn't get too carried away, and once the top flight starts they may fold like a cheap suit. But Tishbola's back as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's certainly a lot of pieces there, and like you said, John Jules, him and Hugo, I'd be I would be quite excited to see them play together for a lot this season. And if they could build enough around them, if these new players settling into the McCann's system, because it's always been a bit of a slog so far, and we may see something again kind of similar to what we said about Hearts earlier, what we said about Motherwell last season, is that we may just see some of these guys maybe taking a little bit of time to get used to McCann's style of play. Because he done very well last season, but like I say, there was a slow start. It didn't just happen immediately. He had to kind of build it up a little bit in terms of getting the right formation, but then also players just kind of understanding that they're moving from one style of play under Stuart Kettlebell to completely another one.
Surely he lost one of his first games pretty heavily as well.
He did. He's got humped away from home every time.
Yeah. They did take some pastings, but I liked a lot of what I saw last season. McCann's problem has always kind of been that he tends to outstay his welcome quite quickly with like the squad, like falls out with players fairly easily, fairly regularly. But I think in his first full campaign, I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. I liked a lot of what I saw from him last season. I think there's still more players to come in. I like what they've got at the top end of the park. I think they're solid enough at the back end, looking at their side now. It's just getting that midfield right with Bailey Rice. I think they've asked him so far to be that kind of quarterback. Seems like he's struggling a little bit with that so far, and that's something else that could derail them. But it's all very early days. And if we can get Rice playing the potential that at one point in his career he was considered a brighter prospect than Lennon Miller, if you can get him playing anywhere near that, then I think Killie could be good this season. It's all about getting that midfield blend right.
Looks like he seems going by the League Cup and towards the end of last season, he seems pretty into his Diamond 4-4-2 as a way of getting the two players that we mentioned, Hugo and John Jules, up front. With Sean Larson left back, you feel really confident about that part of that working. Right back, not so sure. In terms of you're going to be playing a diamond, your fullbacks have to be brilliant. They have to be. They have to get out there. I feel that those two strikers, and Hugo and John Jules, will drift wide. I feel they're all action enough, and they can trade places where that'll work. And he's got quite a lot of wingers for a guy who. Maybe give me one for a guy who wants to play with a diamond. And I'm really interested in, you're talking about Bailey Rice in there. You've got Tishboli you've just brought in, and you've got Mark O'Hara. Where's the room for all these guys?
Yeah.
Do you start because I'm assuming that you maybe go with Kiltie as the attacking midfielder, maybe, and then
O'Hara played a game at right back, at least one bit, and that's maybe not a long-term solution.
He played a fair bit of right wing back last season for St Mirren when he came back in, didn't he?
It's all about midfielders though. I did get like a seriously, is he still there? Moment where I saw Rory McKenzie in one of the teams. I was like, how is he not left by now?
And then you've got Maturin as a wider, Clascencio is a wide player, Eric Ring, as you said, is a wide player. Tiffany, I'm assuming we're not going to see much of him, but he's a wide player. So there's a lot of Owen is a sort of centre forward, maybe drifts wide. So it's a lot of wide players when you're not going to use them. So I'm assuming one or two of them is going to have to play on the sides of the diamond and maybe like sort of subtly change their game a little bit if they're not going to be hugging a touchline. And then you're going to have to decide, as I said, what you're doing with O'Hara, I think right back when you said that there might end up what he does with O'Hara's engine. And when they're going to play this diamond, maybe his engine would be best served playing right back, and because that's going to be quite an attacking position for whoever's going to play it at Kilmarnock. So maybe if they don't bring in someone else, it'd be one to keep an eye on. That might end up where he goes, because I mean, think that Bailey Rice, Tishbola and O'Hara basically play the same role. And if you're playing a diamond, there's only one player that can play that role. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that squad evolves, because it doesn't scream, apart from the two strikers, it doesn't scream diamond. That's the only bit that does. So it'll be interesting to see how that squad evolves and what they add to it. And to be honest, the bodies that are going to have to leave.
And that's a concern as well if he's playing those two. He's playing the system because of those two. And for good reason. Like, Hugo's form was terrific towards the end of last season. John Jules, before he got injured, was in superb form as well.
Scottish Premiership strikers, the way they play as well.
They two together really do have the makings of an excellent strike partnership in this league. But if the rest of the team, and the rest of the team is obviously key for it, because you can't just knock the ball up front and just go, right, he used to just do it by himself. You're going to need some service. You're going to need some support. And if the rest of the team isn't functioning because of that, then you will have to change it. And that's maybe something that is also a potential problem for this Kelly team. So it feels like there's a lot of potholes here that they could easily fall into and end up with a really bad season. But I don't know, I just have, like Craig, I just have faith. I can have faith in McCann that he's going to figure this out.
Where did I have that? Have I got 9th? Have I got 8th?
Like, let me have a look at your passwords. Like,
I am going with 6. Which I know can sound a little bit wild, but...
Can you just show me what I've been saying?
I've got 6 as well, Craig.
Because there's always some... And I've already gone with Dundee United, I know, but there's always surprises. It never just goes the way you think it's going to go at the start of the season. So I've tried to be too clever here, I think, and think about teams that can maybe get into the top 6, and Kilmarnock's another one that I've decided on.
Sorry, I don't think you've got anybody... Did you say 8th?
Yeah.
Let me just double check. Right, 6th.
Aberdeen.
6th, 1st, 9th, 7th. 9th again.
Chuck Killian at 8th. Chuck Killian at 8th.
You've got 2 clubs finishing 9th.
I'll have them up. Who are they?
You have.
I'm really terrible, but I do this every year for about a decade.
So Dundee on 9th. And then you also have
Falkirk at 9th.
Falkirk at 9th.
Let's chuck Falkirk in at 10th and let's get Kilmarnock in at 8th.
Right, okay. I'll need to double check you don't have anybody else at 10th, but
fucking Motherwell, sounds like you're going to have a great season.
By process of elimination.
Yeah, you're going to be 3rd. Okay. Don't hit it.
So Falkirk at the 10th, and what was it, Kelly at the 8th, did you say?
Why not?
Jesus.
And then you're going to be low. St Johnstone, you're going to be low by the sounds of things. And I'm not against that either, so that's not too bad.
It's really wrong thing, isn't it? Right, okay.
Hibs in 4th is very much me with the green tinters on.
Yes.
Just went against everything I said.
Spent about 50 minutes here. Team is fought a bit, so that 4th.
Just everyone else is shite.
Finishing ahead of Hearts.
I'm definitely up for that.
Right, okay, let's move on to Motherwell. The darlings of last season's top flight, finishing in 4th place. Despite a slow start where they would win only 1 of their first 8 matches, things should click for Jens Bertel Askew and his men, and they would go into March firmly in the title race. Though they would fall away in the end, they ultimately finished in 4th with a comfortable win at Easter Road on the final day, despite playing with 10 men. Askew got the best out of not only a few gems found in the transfer market, Elijah Just being the most notable, but also in some of the many players already at the club, with Paul McGinn making the PFE Scotland Team of the Year along with 4 of his teammates. The only disappointment from the campaign was the exit to Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup, while the Pittodrie club were at their lowest ebb and losing to St Mirren in the League Cup semi-final. Much like Falkirk and Hearts, they've been the victims of their own success this summer. Elijah Just is away, Elliot Watt's away, Callum Ward's away, while Askew himself moved on to Toulouse in League 1. Alfred Johansson has been brought in as a replacement, and his message has been evolution rather than revolution. Signs were positive with their victory in their first European match, despite massive injury lists the club are dealing with at this point in time. So, lads, do the good times keep rolling on at Fir Park? Tony, you, by process of elimination, have them 3rd, I presume.
Yeah.
So, what do you reckon?
No, I do think like the thing that gets me going for them is how well they transitioned from the Wimmer incident, basically, because that was not planned. Obviously, that was a bit of a surprise to them. He'd been set up and that was the plan. And how they were able to shuffle to Askew was just so impressive, and how everything seemed to work. So I'm thinking with the time that they had and how well they would have been doing last season, they would have known that Askew was almost certainly going away. So I'm sure that the guy that they've got in is exactly who they want and exactly who they see. And I suppose I've grown into a way of just, maybe I've got faith in that project that they're doing at Motherwell. And the fact that they've done it straight away with all these injuries, they've all came out and they've still managed to get, it's a team for the Faroe Islands. Of course, they're better than them in theory, but we fuck up all the time, man. So there was no guarantee of there not being like a mess made out of that. They've went out and they've got a lot of defensive reinforcements. The incredibly named Girdwood Empire. Like, please be good. Like, that is a tremendous name.
Even Martin Moorman has a nice name.
For the centre halves. And Williams and Moorman scoring that amazing goal and like in the conference playoffs there. So it's all really exciting. I believe in it, and I think they're going to get it right. And Willie Vogt, I've done a lot of reading on him. He's very, if you like, a Jamestown signing, it all worked at that level. You can see the way they would come out. It feels like this manager's got a real understanding of the football that they want to play. The only thing maybe that he wanted to add in was a bit more crossing. It looked like in that playoff game, I watched the highlights, that a lot of crosses were going in. I'm interested to see what happens to Longelo, for example. I thought it was really strange that he ended up on the bench. It made me assume that he's basically working his ticket.
I think I heard that was a fitness thing as well.
Right, okay, right. That's good to know, because I want Longelo to stay because he's absolutely class to watch.
Yeah.
But if they get all these players back when they're fit, they've still kept Vidinga. Priestman is almost like they've got already a bit of continuity there, even though Watt's away. He slotted in for Watt quite well last season, and that means he's also got a season under his belt. So I imagine that he'll improve. If they're keeping Fadinger there, looks good. Alex Lowry, I think, is a really, really... Fadinger, sorry. And Alex,
I'll let you have one.
Alex Lowry, it's really interesting signing. It feels like all or nothing for him. Like, if it's not going to work at this Motherwell with the way they want to play and the way they look after the players, then, like, Lowry, I'm sorry, there's maybe nowhere for you to go. So it's all just... Maswanici's still there. I assume that they're going to sell him. That means that they're going to probably reinvest quite a lot of money in the squad. And the way they done it in the transfer market last year, you feel that with it not just being quite so much the way Hearts is, they're not completely changing everything. Hearts are completely changing everything. They're moving from one style of play. They're doing a whole new squad. There's a huge amount of change. For them, it's just doing the same things they were doing anyway. So I feel they're proven already that they're doing that well. So I've just got a good feeling that they sort of look well set to take advantage of the flux everywhere else, because their system's just, it's not changing.
I don't feel quite as positive about Motherwell. I mean, I get what you're saying there, but if they can continue to identify the same level of player that's come in recent seasons, then yes, they've got to have a similar season to last season, even if they don't quite reach the peak that they did under Askew when they looked just completely unbeatable.
Unplayable.
But to lose, I don't think the goalkeeper's so much of an issue.
Paulson looks good to his feet as well. So
I don't think it was much an issue. It's Watt and Just. Possibly
Maswanisi, then that's a lot of creativity and goals to replace, and you're expecting people, that it's big shoes to fill for the people coming in. So that's why I think there might be a bit of a regression. I mean, I basically think there'll be a bit of a regression at all of Hearts, Falkirk and Motherwell this season.
I think they'll be the least to regress.
It's just how much they regress is going to be the question. They've got a big injury, as you've already said, they've got a big injury list to kick off the season.
Which isn't like, on the one hand, you can look at it like, well, players are going to come back, so we're going to get stronger. On the other hand, it's not ideal when a lot of players are missing pre-season.
They're also starting Europe, so it's a more difficult fixture list to begin the season. So, yeah, I mean, I would expect Motherwell to take a wee bit of a step back this season.
I like the story about Mickey Booth. Like he played sort of like a false nine role. It's like he's meant to be more of an attacking midfielder.
Right, that's what I heard, the 10, and I think he was earmarked to play more last season, but he got an injury or something.
He got an ACL injury under Wimmer, and like the plan Wimmer was really thought he was brilliant in a few of the pre-season games, and he was going to play, and I thought it was really cool here. He's come back in, and Anderson watched him in a few games in pre-season, just went, well, you have to play. And I always think that's really cool to hear about a young player, how good they must be when a manager's like, you're going to have to start. We're starting you next week. And he was talking about he ran home, but refused to phone his dad, ran home to speak to his dad because he said he had to do it to his face to be raging. Told them all his girl, and now his dad's working out how to get to the Faroe Islands. He's only 19. He's already had an ACL injury. He's come back and he's been good enough right away for a brand new manager to go, you have to play. So it's exciting. He came through his plans. He's good friends with Lennon Miller. They played together growing up. So I think it's a really cool story. And like with him, and like I mentioned, the player at Aberdeen straight away coming in, it's always good to see really young players who've already had setbacks as well, already getting to play some football. Because as I said, it's shit here that we're covering young players just stolen first before we even get to enjoy them. It's the funnest part.
We've changed the rules now. 15-year-olds can play.
We have to. Because we have to know that we convince them to fucking stay.
Well, they have to play some of their 80s, so I don't know how much that's actually going to change things, but still. But yeah, I mean, I'm more on Craig's side. I think Motherwell will be good. I've got them finishing in the top half, but just when you look at the level of quality, especially like Elijah Just, like
ridiculously good player.
If you're actually replacing him, or Motherwell just a new talent factory in Scottish football,
I'm up for it.
Anybody in the sign is going to be incredible because like him and Watt. Like Watt's a bit more one where you can maybe say that is kind of Motherwell's system really bringing the best out of him, but Just was just a complete find that it's going to be really hard to replace in terms of his quality. And so like Mashwanese goes, that's a lot of goals.
Yeah, exactly. There was an argument Just was player of the year last year as well.
He was the best player on the eye, no question.
And even though at the start of the season they definitely had that slow point that had maybe Askew come in when Vimmer came in, they might have been able to hit the ground running more. They might have been a lot closer on the title race. This season they're probably going to be able to hit the ground running more because there's still that kind of inbuilt understanding about how they're not having to implement as many kind of new players last season, also a completely different style of play. I still kind of think like at times last season they still nearly finished fifth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They still nearly let Hibs catch them at the end of the season, so there was still a wee bit of a kind of soft underbelly there. They're not going to be as good. 5th place for me. Still in Europe, still decent.
I don't know why I've not just put Hibs 5th place, considering they were at 5th place forever. They spent the entirety of last season in 5th place.
I have tried to be a bit less safe with mine, so I totally appreciate that all this could come back and bite me. Almost everything I've said so far.
Yeah,
but I'm going for 8th.
You're for 8th? Oh wow! That is a surprise.
That's good fun. That's the whole point of doing this. He went one angle, I took the other.
I think we would have done this.
Didn't even plan that, but we do sometimes.
I think we would have done this last year with Joe. We just constantly had 1 or 2 positions difference, and that was it. There was no real variation. So
I am trying not to be as
sat on the fence.
Yeah.
Charles Cook's going to come back in. He's going to be a revelation.
No, he was still there.
Ibrahim Saeed, what's he going to do? Jump around again? That'd be good fun.
Right.
That's it. So just one last thing quickly before we move on from Motherwell, is they struggled. I mean, they did so well despite the fact they didn't have a number 9 last season. Yeah. Callum Hendry didn't really do it. They brought in the Björn Golfsson guy, and he did well for a couple of matches, but not. So they did well even without a number 9. And
Stamatopoulos is back and injured again.
Still don't really see a number 9 there. And
Callum
can they get away with
coming
that
up
again?
with the crosses into the box that I was mentioning earlier. Hendry.
Games when Justin Slattery were the 2 furthest forward. And
Slattery leaving.
Where's he
as well? He's away as well. Yeah.
He's
Wednesday.
All right. I'm quite sad to see. I was very much looking for Slattery to come at Hibs. I'm a big Slattery man.
Right, got 3 teams to go.
Who we got left?
Rangers, first of all, the team that finished in 3rd last season, finished in 3rd in a 2-horse race. It was a nightmare of a campaign for the Ibrox side. Rangers dads proved to be absolutely spot on about Russell Martin. The floppy-haired, non-suit wearing vegan Buddhist lasted just 17 games in charge and left them
Green Party member.
And then left them 8th. You go woke, you go broke, and left them 8th in the Scottish Premiership when he was sacked after a draw away at Falkirk. He was impressed by Danny Rowe. The former Sheffield Wednesday manager was initially a popular figure, especially because he wore brown shoes. And he managed to squeeze some... Allegedly. He managed to squeeze some wins out of a rubbish squad and get them back in the title race before January. But supporter opinion turned on the Rangers manager when he failed to beat Celtic consecutive weekends at Ibrox, including an exit in the Scottish Cup on penalties. And though they would go into the top 6 split as favourites for the title, they would lose 4 consecutive games and end the campaign 10 points behind champion Celtic. who, to make matters worse, won the league on the last day of the season. There's been a huge change in the summer. Rowe, initially expected to stay on as Rangers boss, backed by the board, has moved on to Red Bull Salzburg. He was replaced by Derek McInnes, who they nabbed from Hearts, with Lauren Shanklin and Cammy Devlin also arriving. And there's very much been an onus on players who either get or understand the British style, and more of a Scottish-British core as well. Ross McCrory comes back to Ibrox. They've also signed Dan Neil and Ben Godfrey, along with more unknowns in the form of Ivan Padur, who replaces Jack Butland, and midfielder Vanja
Dragojevic.
Let's go with that. Vanja Dragojevic from Red Star Belgrade. There aren't many
Partizan Belgrade.
Sorry, Partizan Belgrade. There aren't many noticeable. There aren't many notable departures outside of Deadwood, like Danilo, Max Aarons, Nasser Giga, Derek Cornelius, Jaden Magoma.
But James Tavernier, that's notable, surely.
And the hugely disappointing January signing Andreas Skov Olsen. However, they will miss, for the time being at least, Mikey Moore's input after he returned to Spurs. Well, we finally begin the post-James Tavernier era at Ibrox and in Scottish football in general.
Sad to see him go.
So, does Derek McInnes and this Rangers squad have what it takes to win the title?
Not yet, no. Not yet.
So, see when McInnes got the job, I was right, just calm down, like forget about it. Like, Derek McInnes has overachieved like with pretty much every club he's done in Scottish football. He's going to win a title, Rangers. Calm down, it'll be fine. And then with Celtic pissing around, I was like, it's just going to happen this season. The more the summer's gone on, and the more players Rangers have signed, I'm like, really starting to be no shit about this.
We're not the best people to ask about this because we're obviously now incredibly biased against people like Derek McInnes and Lawrence Shanklin. But see, so I like the signing of Ross McCrory. Lawrence Shanklin obviously could be a very good signing if he continues three of the form from 3 of the 4 seasons he had at Hearts. Cammy Devlin could be good for certain games and good for certain occasions, but maybe not for others. Certainly not like... He's not going to be somebody who comes in and helps you break down a low block, which I'd imagine Rangers are going to face a fair amount.
Just chuck it in the penalty box.
Ben Godfrey, I'm not entirely sure. He doesn't look very good on the ball at all.
No.
The goalkeeper, I think looks like he may have some deficiencies to his game as well, so I'm not convinced about him. And then the team just doesn't have any wingers at the moment, so they would.
Any that are any good.
They would have to sign. They would have to sign a fair few real quality players for me to get excited, for me to think that they were going to go on and win the league. Because if you look at how they've been setting up in the most recent games, they haven't scored any goals from open play in the last 2 friendlies, and they've been playing with one winger, Finlay Curtis, and then a central midfielder tucked in from the right. That's been I think they maybe played a 4-2-3-1 against...
very familiar.
Maybe played a 4-2-3-1 against West Ham, but the San Etienne, I think it was Diamondi, played a sort of like tucked in role. There was Asgard maybe played there for one game as well. So McInnes doesn't quite have the players, and we know that McInnes likes to get the ball wide, get the ball in the box, doesn't seem to be a fan of Ant-Man, doesn't seem to be a fan of Gassama, so there's still a bit of work to do there for Rangers.
So, to me, it's obviously, I'll get to, there's certainly a point to be made about the quality, and I'll get to that soon enough, but I think the bigger point in whether this will work overall at Rangers is it's about the style, as you kind of came to mention there. Because that's what it's been. Like, you like McCrory as a signing. Typically, I wouldn't like that as a signing for Rangers because of the fact he's quite limited on the ball. And his best part of his game is running up and down the wing all day long and getting stuck in and things of that nature. So we've talked about this a lot. You've talked about this a lot on the podcast, that if you're Celtic and Rangers, and ever since going back to like Brendan Rodgers coming into Celtic, you should have a manager that is able to teach the players how to play a fast-paced, moving, passing style that will just cut teams open and just take, like I said earlier, to accentuate your resources and to not make sure that games are bogged down into, who's just going to want it more on the day. So this is a really interesting kind of cultural test as to whether like the Walter Smith style Rangers manager, and I don't want to be almost blasphemous to Rangers fans and compare Derek McInnes to Walter Smith.
He's a disciple of.
That's it. He's a disciple of that. That's the kind of player he's good. That's the kind of manager he's going to follow, where he's going to prioritise, not conceding and being and doing all the intangibles that you need to do to win a football game, but doing that above, maybe in terms of looking for more quality. Like you said, McInnes is going to want his players to put balls into the penalty area rather than, spending loads in the training ground, setting up these intricate passing triangles that you could do around the penalty box.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting to see whether that still works in Scottish football as a Rangers manager in 2026-27. I think it has the potential to do it. So where I would say that there is still a problem with the players is that I thought there would be more quality than this, and they still need quality. This Rangers team's also had quality as well.
Yeah,
there needs to be. I think they've got enough quality up front. I think in the front three the three strikers, one will play, one will drop out, and they'll rotate them. Shankland, I think Shankland will score goals at Rangers. I completely disagree with Ewan when he says he'll score less than he does at Hearts. I think he'll score roughly probably the same amount, maybe even more.
They're already getting dodgy penalties going by that friendly. So
there you go. Nadiri feels like a McInnes player, and he's a forward that'll run all day, so you'll like him. And Chermiti, after was a joke figure for the first half of last season, thought he was really quite impressive, especially as the campaign drew to a close.
And in big games.
As well. So
and he'll enjoy crossing in the box.
Yes, they've got a lot there, but they need, as you said, they need more. I don't think they need a few players. I think they need two. They can sign two wide players, kind of creative players who are very good. Then I think Rangers will have enough that they could just get the ball down that end of the park, get balls into the box, get enough goals off of Chermiti and Shankland, and then just be defensively resolute enough. Like Godfrey, again, another player that traditionally I don't like as a Rangers signing because of the fact that he's limited on the ball. And if you're having him as the right-sided centre-back and McCrory as a right-back, then you're not going to build play up very well through that side of the team. But they don't really want to do that under McInnes.
Well,
so that's not much of an issue.
He often used McEntee or Steinvender at right back, and they in effect became...
Beside Halkett.
They in effect became like a third centre back and allowed Milne to push on. So that would make sense with two Romans.
Do Rangers and McInnes have a scaffy Europa League run in them?
Well, that's what I was going to say. There's potential to finish.
McInnes has been crap in Europe, so maybe not.
And finally he gets the good players to play at that level, but he plays it the way that he done with Hearts in the Scottish Premiership, and that type of thing. And with better players, and then it translates to that
spirit
level.
of Walter Smith.
Yeah. I'm picturing it. I'm feeling it. What he does need is no more midfielders central. Fucking hell, it's mental. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 central midfielder, and that's before you even start talking about Shankland maybe playing in a 10, or like Nadiri who done that last season at points.
I'm pretty certain that Connor Barron is going to go this transfer window, because that's my theory as to what happened between Devlin and Rangers and McInnes. So when McInnes first went to Ibrox, so obviously Shankland was already away. And then McInnes first went to Ibrox, and everybody thought, right, that's it. Cammy Devlin out of contract. McInnes is going to want to sign him. And then there was just no contact between Rangers and Devlin or his agent. And it actually looked like he was going to come back to Hearts to the point where he was talking to Wouter Vraken, and it looked like he was going to re-sign, and then all of a sudden he's signing for Rangers. So my theory is that the Rangers board, Derek McInnes was like, I want to sign Cammy Devlin. They were like, no, we've already got Connor Barron. There's no point in signing our midfielder, runs around loads, kicks folk and can't pass the ball. So, but then there's been a bit of interest in Barron. So I think he is going to go.
Clubs.
Yeah, it's a bit
Lazio and shit.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
But there's been some interest in Barron. I think when that happened, he's like, right, okay, now you can go and sign Devlin, especially because it looks like he's going to be sold Heart. So I think Barron will be away, and you would expect one or two others as well.
Could picture McCrory.
Raskin will be away.
Yeah, well, I'm expecting like Raskin would end up having to be like, if he stays, he has to be an attacking player. Because when Raskin's shown that he can do that.
So somebody else is good at getting on the end of the balls into the box.
Yeah. So
surprisingly so.
Yeah, in the air specifically. Yeah. So Raskin, like, if surely he's going to leave. But I mean, right now he would have to go. Chukwueze, Dragicevic, defensive midfielder. Dan Neal's a deep lying playmaker, is he not? Is that not the player? Cammy Devlin. So there's loads of players that play that role. That will he go 4-2-3-1? Maybe
he likes a front two.
So maybe 4-4-2.
I think he wants to. Ideally, when he's got the squad that he wants, he will 100% want to play a 4-4-2 with two wingers.
I don't hate that at Rangers, for the simple reason is like like you're saying, rather than try to do it intricately, just play with actual wide players who are basically wingers. and that you're playing like a 4-2-4. I think there's room for that. If it's coached in the correct way,
Yeah.
that could work.
He said after winning at Ibrox last season that when he was asked about why he played Harry Milne on the right, he basically said Hearts aren't there yet and that they can go to a place like Ibrox, play with the front two and play with two wingers, which suggested he wanted to move towards that. I'd imagine he can get to that a lot quicker at Rangers.
Yeah. And then you've got like Romans, who looked really good.
Yeah.
As a left back, is another option for him, and obviously how good Harry Milne was under Craig Levein. You could picture that going. And you've got Ross McCrory on the right. Ross McCrory might end up just doing a lot of fucking work. And then you look for the quality from the wide players and from Romans there. And McCrory's more about being like a workhorse who maybe even at times tucks in to a back three and stops them being countered on at points because he's got recovery pace. So like that might be he more of a functional player in a Rangers team, whereas that allows for Romans and the two wide players that we're talking about ultimately that Rangers will want to get to be pretty like balls to the wall, basically just playing as proper wingers and wide players. Sterling again could be really handy, I think, for the fact of the way that they want to play, again for that recovery place. Him and McCrory can sort of rotate and play that role. So again, with the fact that they've all, sometimes when you come in, you've got to accept what's already there because you can't just overhaul it all.
Exactly,
so I would think that McCrory and Sterling can play that role, that right back, whether it's like just being an engine, you're not really playing an attacking role within that. You're more allowing other players to do that. And like I said, recovery plays. So I can see him doing that. I still think Fernandez probably going to go. You'd assume that big teams seem to want him.
Yeah, possibly.
If you can keep him, great, because he was good. And under a Derek McInnes team, you think the damage he was doing for set piece in the box will continue at Rangers. Obviously going to try and get rid of John Suter. They seem desperate to do that. So my assumption is there could maybe another 2 centre-halves to come in. And possibly, if he really doesn't fancy any of those wide players that have come in, because I was wondering, like in my head, like bringing in all these leaders and guys who know the Scottish game and warriors, blah, 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 that maybe that allows for Gassama, Ant-Man, that they can maybe start to concentrate on playing a bit of football and other people sort of protect them on the pitch, and that allows them to, because they do look like they've got quality, like the good feet and stuff, and they do step overs and that. And Gassama like that does the cutting and the curlers. Like I was like, so there is obviously something there, and if they create an environment that allows for them to do that, but for the way that you're talking, Craig, for what you've noticed, that he just wants new guys, and these guys
probably. I think
they're
looking for new. I'm sure they were linked to one today. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was a Premier League club, I think, as well. But
so empty some of these midfielders, empty those wide players, and bring it in. Because you can maybe empty like 6 players there, and then only bring in 4.
He is still a fairly flexible manager as well, though. We've seen that he can switch up his formation. He played a 4-2-3-1 against West Ham, so maybe in some of the games in Europe he'll look to play that formation.
He wanted to play a 3 at the back to begin last season, the Hearts.
Right, that's it.
Abandoned it quite quickly when it didn't work out.
Against Saint Etienne, at half-time, he switched to a box midfield to match them up and improved in the second half. So he's shown he's got that sort of tactical flexibility about him.
Looking forward to seeing Dragoway. I think that's a big sign-in.
Yeah.
Taking part. I know Partizan Belgrade, they're certainly not the team. I mean, they got knocked by Hibs, so they're certainly not the team of before. But like they had loads of good young players, and like a lot of them looked really talented. And because they'd been forced into doing that because they didn't have the cash, and I think they maybe had a transfer ban, that type of stuff that moved out, and he was the captain. And so bringing a captain in from a team with that much expectation is playing in a ground which can get pretty poisonous, and I imagine the atmosphere, you feel like he's going to slot in and not blink an eyelid at Ibrox, which for a 20-year-old midfielder, I'd say that's huge. I think that signing screams it's going to work well. Sort of Serbian battling midfielder with quality who's used to playing in sort of high-octane, pretty poisonous atmospheres at time. They think that all suits it, like that really does transfer well into move into a club with the expectation at Rangers and then going out and playing Europe. So
bring him on at 1-0 down to Dundee United.
I could see him maybe just becoming captain, maybe even quite quickly. I think they might be putting big money into him. I think they really went for him. They really wanted him. They were after him the whole summer, and I think that one might work.
Me too.
So, prediction time.
Second.
You guys are at second. I'm going to. So
How do you know I wasn't going to go ninth?
So like I said earlier, my Rangers are going to win the league this season. It'll be fine. I've not liked their signings. I don't like the construction of the team as it is at present. I don't think at present they will win the league, but I do think they will bring in another player or two of, at least with the pedigree and the kind of money spent, it'll be of like good quality. And I think that might be enough to put that. I think that will be enough to put them on the line. So I am not going to back down. I'm going to double down, and I'm going to say Rangers are going to win the title.
Oh, all right, good. Okay, I'm glad. But I think we'll have a title race. I think we'll have one with the two of them.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I think.
I know there was a great title race last year, but other than that, I would barely ever get one.
Some of the fear factor's gone from the two of them. I mean, whether that continues into the coming season, but that could be a factor.
That could be fun.
Season.
It could be fun.
Exactly. How much that continues, because it wasn't just Hearts and Motherwell. I mean, Falkirk kind of had a wee bit of a mental block whenever they played against Celtic, but they competed well against Rangers. And then there was some teams in the bottom six as well that were getting results against them as well.
Twice Hibs who weren't even great, won at Parkhead and Ibrox the same season.
I mean,
and they weren't considered good.
That continues could blow it wide open.
Dundee beat Celtic as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that was mental, because that was before we even knew Dundee were going to get any better.
That was when they were playing that negative football you were talking about as well.
How is this happening? They're even getting me off Dundee.
Right, we've got two teams left, and both of them at this point in time, we've got some stinking vibes going on a bit right now.
Timing though, we're doing a really good timing thing there. So 5:25, we're looking to get 6. What a team.
So we begin with St Johnstone, the winners from the Championship last season, coming back to the top flight at the first time I'm asking. After years of miserable football following their historic cup double, St Johnstone fans finally had a reason to celebrate. Simo Valakari's men led the second tier from start to finish, and while they got an unexpected challenge from Partick Thistle, they largely kept the Jags at arm's length and won the Championship with 2 games to spare. Not only that, they actually played a more fluent brand of football than fans have been used to in recent years, which justified the decision in keeping Valakari on following relegation. However, for what we've seen so far this summer, that year of happiness may be the exception rather than the rule. Things started badly before a ball was kicked, with the support reacting furiously to the decision by the club to give Celtic and Rangers free stands for games at McDermott Park.
Blood on their hands.
Blood on their hands, as somebody said on Twitter recently. Along with scrapping free tickets for youngsters unless they were in the family stand, which was also moved to the opposite end of the stadium, along with an unpopular tier pricing structure. Fans, there's debate about this, but fans are saying that this has bled into performances on the park, with St Johnstone looking a bit poor in the Premier Sports Cup group stage campaign. Going out after poor results against Inverness and East Fife, and the big departure this summer, which looks like the key player they're missing, Josh McPake, went to Hearts, and it doesn't look like they managed to replace him so far. They've brought in a good few players, but it remains to be seen whether the likes of Logan Chalmers, Rory Payton, Matty Todd, and even heroes like last season from like Toby Stewart can do so in the top flight, where I would say there's already doubts that Dan Finlayson, who's played in the top flight for a couple of seasons, can also do it at this level. So will St Johnstone be the first team in years to come up from the Championship as champions and go straight back down again?
Possibly.
Certainly possibly.
Well, just to give away my prediction, yes, is what I've gone for. I think they have... I mean, to follow on from what you're saying there, there's a lot of strikers I think are unproven at this level. Rory Payton has been a prolific goal scorer in the Championship, but didn't really make the step up when he was with Dundee United. I think he went down south before he came back, but didn't look great. He's not the quickest. I really like Jamie Gullen. I've always liked Jamie Gullen. He's somebody who, other than Tony will correct me if I'm wrong here, but other than a few appearances when he was at Hibs,
he's not played
in the top.
He's a Championship striker, simple as that, wide player striker.
Josh Fowler was brilliant at Queen's Park before he went to St Johnstone. Didn't really work for him. This is another step up.
Style of play with Josh Fowler as well. He wants to play on the shoulder. He wants to get him behind. It's like... that could work, I suppose.
Well, that's the thing. It could work for St Johnstone because they'll be under the cosh a bit more than they were last season, and he can play on the shoulder more. However, he was kind of in and out of the team, and like the games in the League Cup where he maybe should have been playing to do that, Valakari wasn't really playing him. And also as well, Valakari's still going to want to have this patient passing build up. So how many times is Fowler going to get the opportunity to play on the shoulder of the last defender?
There's going to be fewer chances for their strikers, so they have to take the chances they get.
And it's also going to be against games where he's just going to struggle because he's up against a higher level of opposition.
there's like the goodwill for the there's a goodwill chopped down quite so fast as St Johnstone have. The fan base seemed really re-energised after a year in the Championship. Valakari being a really good manager, not just on the pitch, but his way of galvanising, sort of buying into the community, living there, always being seen around, people being really approachable. It all worked. I think a lot of people were quite positive about Valakari even after they got relegated, so it seemed smart to keep him on. Almost suited him more to be the manager of a good team in the Championship than it would a struggling team in the Scottish Premiership. But not just with the stuff with the stands and the tickets and the prices, also just like the performances in that League Cup. It's like both on and off the pitch, they've managed to like sink it in like record quick time. And there's also this idea is like, just do you get it twice in a row that a team comes up? Don't add too much. It looks more like he's trying to add depth to the squad rather than overhaul the 11. I know that can change soon, and they've still got a bit of time, but obviously we can only talk about what we're seeing at this second. But like, do we see again another team that comes up but doesn't really add too much, playing sort of expansive or patient football, and they do it again? What, we're just proved wrong again, if that's possible?
Yeah,
it's just like, I don't know if I can buy it. That's just that the same thing's going to happen twice of almost the exact same.
Yeah, I mean
thing.
that's kind of what I was going to say at the end of what everything I had to say, because even like moving on from the forwards, you look at Matty Todd, unproven at this level. Even the likes of Sam Stanton and Logan Chalmers, very limited.
They're proven not to be good enough for this level,
like
I would argue.
Sam Stanton's maybe a wee bit different from the others, but he hasn't played in the Premiership for a long time now. And then even like guys like Morgan Boyce, Kai Fotheringham, like little to no experience in the top flight here. But we said all this about Falkirk and their League One team last season.
But like Toby Stewart, I mean, obviously he got like record number he had the most clean sheets in the country last season in any league. I don't hate if they've got Bozo Mikulic on, he's fit again, and they've got him on a contract. Him and Zach Mitchell coming back. Zach Mitchell didn't get to play very often for Hibs when he's here, but when he did, he was pretty good, and he was really good at St John's that time, and he's a couple of years older, so maybe that's a solid part of the squad. I was reading about what fans were saying. Like they were talking about like Fotheringham being one of the best players that they had in the League Cup stages. The pressure on this Alvarez character, obviously with McPake moving to Hearts, but McPake even kind of his form started to tank a little bit.
It did dip a bit, but he was very much. The thing with McPake going is that he was very key to St Johnstone last year. Like it felt like St Johnstone, they weren't quite as dominant in the second half of the campaign in terms of how they were beating teams as they were in the first half, and that was maybe tied into some of McPake's form as well. But it was how that kind of front three was constructed. McPake's very much that kind of archetypal, plays on the left, cuts inside and shoots on his right all the time. But also got a lot of kind of crosses as well. But him being such a danger and such a somebody that distracts other teams so much helped. Probably Jamie Gullen play as well as he did. Somebody that likes to drop off the front, get involved. That created a bit more space for him. When he's playing better, that means that up the top, their strikers playing better, Sidibe, and then later Rory Payton as well. And so, without him, it feels like, and if you're saying that Fotheringham is like the standout in like the League Cup, and like that's worrying.
Yeah, because that's what I read. I was reading like Prime Bob that I saw it a few times in a few different places. People, he's impressed the most. Of like, oh, that's look great. And like you're saying about Alvarez, he needs to have a huge season if he's going to be the replace that. Then you look at Macaulay Tate, Jason Holt, similar. Would it be a fair way to tell? It's like one at either end of their careers, but like
even
similar.
Like even like McClure as well is probably quite a bit similar to Jason Holt, and whether that would work at the top flight level as well.
Because if we're going to play with Tate and Holt, I'm assuming you're going to have to want to go through the lines, and the defender's going to want to get. They're both tidy, sort of technical players, quite tiny small, as well. Slight. So it's all about the football for them. And again, I'm not saying folk have proved it can work.
Yeah,
but it's just finding it hard to be that that same thing happens again. And also with not the same squad that's been together for the length of time that Falkirk was as well. And so, I'm struggling to I just feel like if we're going to do the same again, unless they're going to sign a few more players to go into the first team, not more squad players. The squad's deep. There's enough bodies.
Even Macaulay Tate, you mentioned there, I think it's exactly the kind of move that Macaulay Tate needed. Needed to get away from Hearts. Needed to be playing. I mean, who knows? If the time will tell whether he actually does play every week or most weeks for them. But again, somebody who made 16 appearances for Hearts before he's left them or something like that. It's not a lot of.
Wasn't that great
football
last season?
Yeah, it struggled a bit. I think he was very good for them in the Championship, wasn't it? I remember Davy Martin was a huge fan of.
Didn't really make the step up.
Yeah, so. Yep,
and the fact that they're coming in under a bit of a dark cloud, which Falkirk weren't. Falkirk were so the fan base so like bold and boyish and try to get up everyone, if you know what I mean, and they seemed certain of that. Whereas already with St Johnstone, there's infighting with the board, and also they've now not convinced me what they've seen in the League Cup. It doesn't seem like.
Another problem as well is that they don't seem to have like an awful lot of fullback, and that was like a problem they had last season. That was like one of the weakest parts of their team, and they've not done enough to address it so
Even
far.
Though they had 3 right backs at one point. They had Forrester, Smith, and Tumulty, I think, at one point.
Yeah, Tumulty's away. Forrester's obviously. Well, he's sent back to Hearts and he's away somewhere else, is he now?
I think he's still at Hearts at the moment. I don't think he's been loaned out. But yeah, you're right. And Matty Todd is an option at right wing back as well.
If they end up playing there,
if they play with it, possibly. If he plays with a back 3, then he's possibly the right wing back.
Because he played there mainly for Dunfermline last
season. Yeah.
If Stewart can replicate his performances in the Championship in the top flight, which is a big if, and the same for Czech Diaby. then they've got them alongside Mitchell. They've got a solid wee base to build for their defence, but there's already a lot of ifs there. Yeah, I don't like the way this team's made up at this point in time. I think what you're hoping for is that Valakari's going to realise this. He'd done a lot of rotating, like the Inverness result. I think he rotated, I think it was 7 players he rotated for that game, and that ended up blowing up in his face and played a huge contributing factor in them going out. But that's maybe what he needed. Maybe he was just treating it that he didn't really care enough about the League Cup. Like, it's just a bit of a distraction. Let me use this as almost like pre-season. Let me see what I've got, what we need, and the focus is on the league, because the focus is just get to 10th, consolidate, and then build from there. I think that's your positive spin on what's come so far, because there's a whole lot of negatives around them at this point in time. Positives are that, and there's still a month left to sign more players.
12th.
I'm going 11th. I do think they will have enough. I think Valakari will.
I'm happy to trade between the two Saints, basically.
I think he'll add more players, and also it's just a kind of. I know this is almost a bit arbitrary because Livingston came very close to pipping Falkirk to the title in that Championship season, then Livingston went straight back down. So it picked Falkirk the title, and then Falkirk went up to the playoffs. So that really made any difference.
Yeah.
However, it has been a long time since a team that won the Championship came straight back down the next year. But as you say,
the last 3 have finished in the top 6, I think.
But as you
Dundee,
say,
Dundee United and Falkirk.
Sometimes things just have to stop.
Things have to stop. There's
all of averages is back. Hello.
There's also a lot of teams like, Dundee United, Hearts, Hibs, like teams that come up for the Championship who are actually big teams. Whereas St Johnstone are not quite on that. And obviously, there's not a massive amount of difference between them and like Dundee, for example. But Dundee still are a bigger side. So
I think the main worry here is arguably their squads got better, but the teams got worse.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem at the moment. If you're going to convince me, and then you add on the sort of bit infighting and people losing, they've lost all the momentum. Put it
this way, I have more faith in St Johnstone to get better between now and the end of the transfer window under Valakari than the team we're going to come to next. St Mirren.
Hey, is this the last one?
Yes.
Hello, lads. Last one to talk about, last one to finish in the table.
Last season side finished in 11th place and survived a very nervy playoff 2-legged tie final against Partick Thistle. The Buddies got off to a good start under former manager Stephen Robinson after 3 consecutive top 6 places. They looked like they might be doing it again with some shrewd business in the summer transfer window. 1 defeat in their opening 6 league matches. They did suffer a bad drop-off. They did suffer a bad drop-off after that. But did get to the final of the League Cup and won it with a famous 3-1 victory over Celtic. Jonah Anunga's famous double, getting the job done for the Buddies. But then things soon took a real turn for the worse. Not long after that, they won the next game, drew the next one after that. But then, in fact, actually, I've got this noted down from the final onwards. So they won the next match. So then after that, they only won 4 of the next 22 games to finish the season. Robinson eventually left for Aberdeen. It would have been interesting to see what happened if Robinson was still in charge, whether would they let him stay on till the end of the season. I guess they probably would have done, but you'll never know because he went to Aberdeen. Craig McLeish was hired as his replacement. He was on the coaching staff already. He came in with a new style of play, which initially seemed to get the most out of the St Mirren team. Finally let off the leash. They got some impressive results under their belt, but things took a turn for the worse again, and they ended up the season in 11th place. Much to the surprise of a lot of people, St Mirren have now decided to stick with Craig McLeish as manager going into this season, with Keith Lassie coming out and saying that they've shifted the entire kind of ethos of the club. Under Robinson's management, they were basically just looking to survive every season, and they were able to overachieve thanks to Robinson's management. They don't want to do that. They want to create something where it become a pathway for younger players to come through, to be more a team the community will be more proud of in terms of how they play football. And I don't know about you guys, but all that screams to me going down.
I think it's a very interesting one, and I think regardless of what happens, it's going to be a really interesting one because they're going, as you've said, they're going for a complete change of style under Craig McLeish. Moving away from the St Mirren we've come to expect. After their first pre-season friendly, which was against Hearts in Spain, Craig McLeish constantly mentioned budgets, and a lot of this is driven by budgets. But there's also a look to become more sustainable, and it was also covered very well in that excellent piece on the Terrace by Graham McGarry,
yes.
which I would encourage people to go check out. They're pretty much looking at Motherwell, the model of Motherwell, and they want to both produce their own players and flip them, sign gems, and turn them over, basically.
Sign low.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I've heard that a few times over the years.
I don't like more clubs don't think of this.
Yeah.
They've brought in Gavin Miller from Motherwell as their head of recruitment, and
St Mirren's blueprint just to be Motherwell.
Be Motherwell.
Yeah.
So when Motherwell are the murder ball team,
They've
like, let's
already
be like
got-
Motherwell.
Yeah.
And then when Motherwell turn into sexy Motherwell, like, let's be like Motherwell.
their CEO is very well known at Motherwell as well,
Yeah.
Keith Lassie. But they're looking at moving away from constantly signing from the lower leagues of England, basically, and they want to, and that's why the likes of Samuel Ramos has come in. So they're embracing analytics, and this is the type of signings that they hope to.
What's he an
make.
attacking midfielder?
As a midfielder, yeah.
Slovenian. No, Spanish. Played
No,
in
they
Slovenia.
brought him from
Slovenia.
Slovenia. Yeah, ex-teammate of Kizridis, I
Okay.
believe. Is that right?
Yeah, maybe good for a few weeks.
But he's another one who's impressed in the League Cup group stage, but you have to stress, again, it's the League Cup group stage. So once the real stuff gets underway, then he will be... they'll be judged on that. I think it's an exciting time for someone, and they're being clear about it not going to. It's going to take longer than one transfer window to get to where they want to be. It's going to be a medium-term type thing they're looking for. That all said...
That's scary, because, I mean, surely you still want to be in the top flight.
No, that's it. But I would have said, see if this had been 10 years ago, I'd be like, red flag. This is like got disaster written all over it. Whereas now, I feel like there's more of a move across the league towards this kind of style of play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I wonder whether this is like a good time to do it. Don't get me wrong, this is the type of thing that could easily fall flat on its face. It could easily fall flat on its face. But I do think there's a bit less risk with Motherwell doing it, with Falkirk doing it, Hearts are doing it. I mean, would you say Dundee to an extent as well, or a bit more of a football inside as well?
Yeah, they're probably a bit more, slightly more on the pragmatic side. Them and United are the two I can think of that were, and obviously it's funnily enough, there's a lot of teams at the top end of the division.
Yes, that's
Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, and Hibs are definitely the more pragmatic.
Exactly. So I mean, I think it's a difficult one to see where it go. I can understand why a lot of people are tipping them to go down this season, but yeah, we'll see. But
They're taking out like, sorry, anyway.
No, last thing. What could be crucial and what could sweep the carpet out from underneath them is they've got an Australian goalkeeper who's good. Who's good with his feet. So we'll see how that goes.
His warning sign's going off all over the place here.
Oh,
No, I think he's just got white hair.
oh, yes. It's a bald Australian goalkeeper who's good with his feet. Yeah.
The white hair's more concerning, I would say.
He's been through a lot.
I'd see where I would worry especially as well is like the better players of kind of left.
Freckleton, Mandron.
Feels like
Devaney was really good.
Yeah,
He
it
would
was
suit.
Shamal
And
George.
I was hoping
Freckleton.
Devaney might stay for another season to play that way, because I was like, especially with the way you're talking there, Craig, about what they move on to, is like, this would maybe be a good place for you to go because they already have faith in you. They'll make you a linchpin in that, and I wonder if they will try and sort of make that happen. But I'm still like, I don't hate the idea of them looking to become a certain type of club and put it together. But I think they've had it good for so long. They're now going to try and change their identity essentially as a club. They won a cup last season. Sometimes it just comes back to roost. You get the gods go, your turn.
Yeah.
And they were also shit last season, very shit.
Yeah.
They've got a manager who doesn't look like he's particularly strong. And that, like, I don't know him very well. I thought that stuff about Shaw Murdoch. And I was like, I don't know if this is the route you should be going down now.
Yeah,
Right
exactly.
now. Like right now. And
You've
the Premier
qualified
Sports
as
Cup.
well.
And the Premier Sports Cup, and you're going to start getting jibey like that about. And
even though they came back to win, going 3-0 down at home to East Kilbride was alarming as well.
Yeah. So I don't see if the way they're going to play. One of the better players in Killian Phillips, who's I'm a fan of. I don't see him suiting it. I don't think you get the best out of him. I think he'd end up being, if you're not allowing him to be sort of carnage and running through people, if you're going to use him as an attacking midfielder or even as a striker in this team with that style, I don't think it'll work. I don't think he's got the technical ability to play those roles in a team that wants to do it. Doesn't mean he's not useful, just it's not going to work there. So that's going to be another player I think is going to go. Bacchus, more of a driving player. I don't know if he's good enough on the ball.
Also wasn't, his return hasn't been that good.
Yeah, like, is his
since he came back.
technical ability on the ball going to be good enough? Donnelly, maybe he would prefer to play in this, but I don't buy, like, Campbell was better than I thought he was going to be, but again, it was always more about Campbell's physicals and his driving with the ball rather than it being like good football. So there's a lot going to land on, and there's Ryan Carr, Ramos, young players coming in. It's like,
and the guys that
they're buying it.
The guy like they brought in, I think it's only 6 players so far. So that's another kind of caveat to add to them as well. That's another team that looks like they're going to bring in more players before the end of the window. But there's like 4 unknowns, and the 2 that we do know about, Henry Fieldson and Chris Mockery. Yeah, both very good last season in the Scottish Championship, but not only is it a step up in level, both of them were on teams that were in the bottom end of the Scottish Championship.
Yeah.
And then you've got like huge in the soul, like to be a brilliant up front. And I know he nearly scored a really good goal, really good move for St Mirren that he put just wide. But like Jake Young, they don't seem to fancy him.
Yeah, and they've lost Mandron, and then Iunga's going to start the season in
like January.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're going to need another striker. They're going to need one. And yeah, if they basically, again, similar to what I was saying about Hibs earlier, for what they want to do, if Ramos and Carr don't be good, they're going to be abysmal. Like, they're going to be abysmal. So it's like there's so much on those 2. If that's why it would be nicer if Devaney was still there, because I'd be like, right, I can see him another year. I know what they've got. I know what they're going to get. So these unknowns and these very key positions for St Mirren to have the evolution, well, the revolution really that they want to have. Again, if he's already been talking about budgets, that doesn't make me think they're going to do loads of work in this last August. Certainly for players that will come in and be top class footballers, because that's what the technical players
did already seem like he was willing to give youth a chance last season.
Good.
There was a few that they did catch the eye. There was a striker, I think his name begins with R, his surname, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. But he looked really good. He was like one of their best players against Dundee United. I can't remember the guy's name. But one thing that did happen in that friendly against Hearts, Hearts got a corner and St Mirren left 4 players up, spread out across the halfway line. Thought, oh, this is going to be interesting, because Hearts had to leave 4 players back. Hearts just scored for the corner. Just left more space in the box.
Yeah,
and Rogers Matto, of all people, scored.
Yeah, I don't.
Calvin the striker.
I thought
Shalmaro
I had like
Calvin.
Docherty in my head or something.
Yeah, I don't like the
People
sound
are
of
going to be
that.
shouting it.
I don't like the sound of that, because that's something that fans say you should do. Oh, you should leave more players up. But it's like, no, the reason why a lot of managers just have everybody back at corners is it makes the penalty box really crowded. So it's harder to get a run on the ball and get like someone. Like, 'cause if you're going to attack the ball towards goal, then you get that run. It's harder to get that run as a defender.
And I mean, if you're looking again, I've all this caveat constantly about whether they're going to sign more players, but like the defence, not for me, man. I mean, Declan John's going to be out. It looks like, and I'm hearing rumours when I was doing the research for this, that's going to be longer than what
Douglas.
they've sort of let
Sorry.
on. Yeah. So Fieldson's going to be coming straight, and he's going to be the main left back going forward. I mean, Richard King wasn't great. Fraser's surely coming to the end of his sort of time as a sort of stalwart. And Jayden Richardson's nowhere near good enough to be a right back.
No.
Like a
He's
right
a wing back. Yeah, he's a wing back.
he can maybe play a passable wing back, but sitting a right back, they're going to the 4 at the back. So I still think they
Also, Fraser as well is always somebody that's been good on the right side of the back three because he's not big enough really to be a centre back and a back 4, and he's now at this stage of his career, he's 32.
Can you want him playing right back either? Because he's not athletic enough. So I still think there's loads of work needs done in the central midfield and the entire back 4, maybe apart from Gogic in there. And it wouldn't be surprised if it's there. So, like, I'm just struggling to see that there just feels that there's too much work to be done. And a team that was so bad last season, I think's got worse.
Luke Douglas was the young forward. He was 16. I may have turned 17 since, but he was 16 when he was playing towards the end of last season.
I'm assuming we'll see him. Looking at the options that they've got up there at the moment. So I think there's the logical side of St Mirren's going down in terms of like they're going to have a poor season, and then the mythology side of us as football fans knowing that someone's had it so good for so long. So everything's pointing at St Mirren for me. So I'm going to have them 12th now and put St Johnstone.
All right, okay, I like that last late change from Tony. Craig, where'd you have St Mirren?
Ninth thing, I've got 9th left.
You were positive on them, so yeah.
That worked well as well, that's good, because we're getting both sides of the story.
Right, so Tony's St Johnstone 12th. I would do a recap for every team.
St Mirren 12th, St Johnstone.
Sorry, St Johnstone 12th. No, sorry.
Listen to the space is really, people don't get angry about those bits. Listen to the stuff I was actually saying. That bit's imposed upon me.
I would read them out at the end, but this room is rusting. I've been here for nearly 3 hours.
How did Telfer and Sean do this?
I know.
I'm absolutely knackered.
My bum cheeks are absolutely killing me right now. This seat, this hardwood seat.
I've never been put you on a cushion.
I know.
I've got cushions coming in my arse as well. Well, apart from the only place I don't have them is coming in my arse. So I don't know why we've done that, and then they fucking move all the time and make that noise as well.
Aye, that should be tidied up in Riverside. That should be fine. Right, but anyway, thank you very much to everybody for listening, for everybody for watching. And yeah, the more stuff coming out on the terrace. I just want to get this to finish, so I'm just going to cut this short. Craig, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tony, thank
Cheers,
you.
mate. Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you again soon. Goodbye.